sent the Barbershop Harmony Society version of the MAP Team Leadership Manual. The questions, I'm asking the questions, and then I'm going to answer them based on the manual I have. And based on that, then we're going to get through the whole thing. And then afterwards, I want to have a roundtable discussion about issues you're having or questions you're having within your chapter. So we can have, and it doesn't need to be me answering them. I think Paul has been around a long time. Lane, I think you've been in barbershopping a few years. We have a lot of people who can, we have a lot of people who can answer questions. So it doesn't need to just be me. We are going to get started at 9 o'clock promptly because we've got a lot to cover. So hopefully, I'm just admitting people as they come in. We just had 2 more. And we are recording this so that anybody who wants to look at this later on or who couldn't make the Saturday morning thing will have an opportunity to go through this. So that meets with everybody's approval. And I have 9 o'clock. Does anybody else have 9 o'clock? Okay. Well, we'll just assume everybody has 9 o'clock. So who's in here, I will be admitting people as they pop in. But I want to get started on time so we can finish and get to your specific needs. So let me just get started. My name is Jeff. Oh, Kate, do you have?
I don't see the file in the chat window. I wonder if it was posted before I joined. Maybe I just don't see it.
Yeah. It should be in the chat window. There should be 3 files, and you want to click on the middle one. Oh, there, Chris just put something in the chat. I just saw it pop up.
I just copied and pasted it.
Oh, cool beans.
Thank you.
So Doug, next time, or Doug, Jeff, if you, Doug just popped in, that's what happened to me.
Okay.
If you have, when you have more people join, just copy and paste it and put it up if they can't see it too.
Okay.
And Jeff, do you mind if I just kick off real quick? Like,
absolutely, go ahead. Do your
hey
thing.
Guys, good morning. Thank you for coming to LeadAc 2021. This event marks a full year since we've had in-person barbershop, and it's very, very painful, I know, for all of us, at least in the Johnny Appleseed district. We've not had in-person barbershop now for a full year. I do believe we will be back together this year. I do think 2021 will see us come back together. I think it might be in the fall, but I think we will be back together in person. And meanwhile, we're working hard to still do programs and things that you all can enjoy and participate in and, watch. If at any time you guys have an idea for us for a virtual program between now and the time we can all get back together, feel free to submit it to me. Give me a call. Let me know that, hey, I had this idea. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. And, we're open to any and all ideas. Thank you for taking advantage of this today. I hope you get some good value from what Jeff has to say and from what the society has provided. And I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you in person again and singing with you very, very soon. So does anyone have any questions for me before I take off? All right, guys, have a great day. Talk soon.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Chris did not say, but he is the now president of the Johnny Appleseed district. And he has worked very, very hard this past year with Dave Rubin and many of us on the board. We've continued our meeting and tried to plan things that were as exciting as possible. But with this COVID, it has been really a tough thing to do. So let me start by just saying, I know probably most of you, some of you I might not know. My name is Jeff Gehm. I joined the society in 1981. I came out of college with a degree in music education. I was a voice major and have directed 2 BHS choruses and directed a Sweet Adeline chorus. This is my 7th year in this particular position. This is my 5th year teaching this class. And I have been a frontline director. I've been an assistant director. I've been on a MAP team. I've been vice president of a MAP team. And I'm right now I am on with the Men of Independence, and I'm just a riser guy, which is what I want because I have so many other things going on. I just don't have time to be in additional meetings. So I say that to say I pretty much I've been in big courses, I've been in small courses. I pretty much have seen a lot, and so what I'm going to do today, this is going to be the format today. This was originally a 5.5-hour class. I've condensed it down into a 2-hour and 45-minute class as best I could. If you ever want to get the book that I'm going out of, it's called the Music Leadership Team Manual. And the product number from Barbershop Harmony Society is 4042. So if you go to BHS and want to order one of these, I think it's available online for free, I think. But you might want to check and see about that. The particular manual I have is probably 10 years old or older. I will apologize in advance to the ladies in here because all of the pronouns that are used in this are male. So I will try to be non-gender specific as we go through this, but I can't guarantee anything because I'm going to be going as fast as I can so we can get to questions. So for the first half, good to know. So what I'll be doing is going through the manual, and I'm going to keep everybody muted. If anything I say rings a bell that you need a question on, I'm going to ask you to go into the chat room and post that question. And then when we're done, we'll go through those. My goal today is to give you basic information. And then I want to make sure that if you guys are having any questions or issues with chapters that you have, that we can identify them. We have some very knowledgeable people that are going to be on here today. I see Doug Smeltz is on. Doug was my mentor in this. Doug had my position prior to me for 6 years. And Doug kind of was kind enough to let me kind of be his assistant for a couple years prior to coming on here. So I hit the ground running pretty well. And I thanked him many times. I'll thank him again. Paul Coleman is on. I see Paul is vice president of the 10th best chorus in the world, the Cincinnati Western Hills Chorus. So, and Paul's been around for a lot of years. Lane Bushong has, I think he joined in 1868, right after the Civil War. And Lane has been around forever. There's so many people on here that are great resources. This doesn't have to be all me. So when we go into answering questions, if you have an answer, if you have issues, if you've been in a similar situation and you want to chime in, that's what I want you to do. I don't want this to be all. This should be a roundtable discussion. But for the first half, I'm going to get through the basics of the music team as to why to have it, how you interact with directors, what assistant directors' roles are, team leaders, the positions in the board, how we interact with the board. And this is all coming from BHS. I'll throw a tweak in here or there, but that's what this is. So, okay. Why do I have Mike McCarthy's screen? Okay, I'm gone.
I have no idea why it's not showing up.
And now
Hey, Mike,
there it is.
you are sharing your screen at the moment.
Yeah, I thought that might bring my video up, but it did not. So I don't know how to get back out of it.
Can we have you disconnect and reconnect? Because I can't see anything. I just see your screen.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do.
Okay. There I am. Does everybody see? Can everybody see me all right? Okay, so let's get started with this. You're going to see me glancing up to a screen here. I'm on my phone. I have to be able to do 3 things at once here. So what I have pulled up on my computer screen is the questions. I'm going to be looking down because I have the music team manual here on the desk with me, and I'm going to be looking at you all 3 ways. So if you see me glance away from the screen, you'll know why. So let's get to the first question as to why to have a music team at all. Who does it benefit? What does it do? What is the mission of the chapter? How does a music team enhance that mission? This is something, I still got people coming in. Okay, this is, back in the old days, we didn't have a music team. We had a director and maybe an assistant director or two, and they did everything. That was good and it was bad. Nowadays, a great thing to do is have a music team so that we take the pressure off of our director and our assistant directors, and we have a collective agreement of where the chapter is going and how we're going to develop that. So what we're looking for is a number of capable team members to share these responsibilities, and a qualified director can pull it all together and create a musical program that's greater than the sum of its parts. Music teams are responsible for planning, for the growth of the chapter, and it depends on your size as to how many people should be on the music team. I know Paul's chorus has 60 or 70 guys that are pretty active. A lot of our choruses have. Do you, Paul? Is it? I mean, at least a contest. Yeah. So most of the ones that are on here are probably in the 40 or less. So it's all going to be relative. If you have a lot of people, you have a luxury of having a bigger team and more specific people like a wardrobe chairman and stuff like that. In smaller choruses, we're going to have to double up. There's going to be people who are doing 2 and sometimes 3 and sometimes 4 jobs. So when we go through this, bear in mind that the size of your chapter will dictate probably how many people are on your team and what their responsibilities will be. So your goal is to create a mission statement for the musical development of the chapter, and then oversee that music statement and making sure that the chapter is moving in that direction. And it should be public with all of your chapter. In other words, when you set up a musical mission statement, you want to let the chapter know what that is, because if the chapter guys aren't involved in that or aren't on board with that, it's going to be a tough sell. So we want to be as transparent and public as possible when we're doing this. So we want to look at how many directors we have, what are all of their attributes that we have. So there's 4 C's in team building, and one of the things that we're looking for when we're looking for people on the music team, we're looking for people who are good at caring. You don't have to be the best musician in the world to be on a music team, but you do have to be one of the leaders in the chapter about caring about the musical product that you're putting out. I've been on music teams where people have wanted to be on the music team to say, gee, I'm on the music team. But as far as how they care about the music and the mission of that chapter, I wasn't so sure that they were on board with that. If you know me, I am passionate about getting better. That doesn't mean that I'm saying, gee, we have to go to contests, gee, we have to win international. It's, gee, I want to move this chapter forward. I want to be better musically. I want to be a better performer. And I want us always looking forward to that. So you really have to, the number one thing I would say for a person to have as an attribute is the caring. Secondly, consistency is the second C. Team members must be unified in terms of their long-range goals for the chapter, and then be consistent in meeting those goals. We have to be able to evaluate ourselves. We have to be able to evaluate the mission that we set up for the chapter, and we have to spend time in that mission saying, are we meeting that? Whether that's monthly, whether that's quarterly, whether that's semi-annually, there has to be a measurement where we say, okay, but 3 months from now, we want to be here. 6 months from now, we want to be here. And we have to be consistent in fulfilling that task. Third C is cooperation. Cooperation means mutually doing things with others and not trying to do everything yourself. So within that music team, you need all sorts of people. If you have 4 or 5 people on that music team, you need somebody who's a visionary, who can look forward and saying, okay, once we get here, where do we go from there? How do we get to that next level? And I'm not talking about score. I'm talking about your desire to be better musically. So you have to have that visionary. You have to have people in there who are not dominating things, and who want to be a part of a team, who want to be delegated authority. And you got to make sure that you get somebody who is a cooperative person. The fourth is communication. That kind of goes hand in hand with cooperation, I think, because you have to have those people with a pretty even demeanor who aren't going to take their ball and go home if something is said in the music team and the other people don't agree with it. So we got to have with cooperation. I would put cooperation and communication as 3A and 3B, because those people, that you have to be able to get along with other people, and you have to be able to accept that your idea might not be the idea that other people have, and that's okay. So that's that. How do we start a music team? What are we looking for? To get the ball rolling on a music team approach, someone has to want it. It may be an overworked director, a chapter board that can visualize membership growth, or just a bunch of guys in the course who feel a group might improve in a number of ways through a music team course of action. All chapters throughout the society elect a vice president for music and performance. Yes, that would be the ideal. I know some chapters don't have that. What are some of the resistance that we run into with that? One of the big ones we run into was, gee, our chapter is too small. A 20-25 man chapter probably doesn't need a wardrobe chairman or 2 assistant directors, but you do need a basic team of the vice president of music, the director, any assistant directors, and hopefully you have section leaders. And one position that I think a lot of choruses overlook is a chorus manager position. We'll get into the details of that later. But you need someone who basically is in charge. If they call Lane Bushong up and say, hey, how about your chorus come and perform for us? You should have a chorus manager who, oh, you want to get a hold of Joe Magaratz. He's our chorus manager, and he will set the schedule. He will have the all the things that he needs in front of him to create a price and a product for that particular thing. And that person doesn't even need to be a member of your chapter. That is a non-musical position. It's a manager position. So that might be somebody's wife or somebody's husband. Notice how I gender thing there. I'm getting this. But we'll talk about that later. So you need a basic structure for your music and presentation team. So again, director, any assistant directors, and section leaders should be on that. If you have a 20-25 man chorus, let me admit somebody else, 20 to 25 man chorus, you might have 2 section leaders. You might have somebody who's a section leader for the leads, and then maybe you're going to sectionals. Maybe you'll go lead baritone one week, lead tenor the next week, lead bass the next week, and the other section leader can take the other parts. But you do need section leaders, and if you don't have them, develop them. One of the things when I was in the first really good course that I directed with about 70 people is that I did not spend enough time developing talent behind me. I had 2 assistant directors. They were good. They weren't great, and I could have helped make them better. And I spent my time trying to do all the things that the music team was supposed to do. I kind of felt the first year or two, I didn't need any help. I had this. We were moving forward. We were getting better singing. We were getting more members in, and I thought, why rock the boat? But I got burnt out. And if a director tells you he can do everything, don't believe him because he needs the backing of a music team. Another thing we hear is we don't have enough talent. It's rare that a chapter has no talent or doesn't have at least some men with talent abilities. I'm still admitting people who might grow musically if given the opportunity to study, work, and practice. So in the Johnny Appleseed district, we have a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of smart singing people, smart directing people who are more than willing to help. I will plug one program we have coming out as soon as COVID lifts called the Harmony Helper Program. And that's where a chapter contacts me. I assign a harmony helper to come to your chapter, and we work on what you want to work on. If you want to have a fun night singing tags, let's do that. If you say, gee, our director's brand new, he was a band director in high school, but he doesn't know much about barbershop, then we send somebody down to do that. If you say, gee, we want to develop talent within our chapter, we send a guy down to maybe one of your board meetings and we talk about that. So we have a lot of people standing by, ready, willing, and able to help. As soon as we get back together again, I hope you'll avail your chapter of that Harmony Helper program. Here's a director thing, and this is the guy right here whose mantra it was for the first couple years. I know what's best, or I don't trust anyone else to get the job done. Hey, I was a voice major in college and a reasonably decent singer, and I thought, well, who can warm up the chorus better than me? No one. So that's what I did. And who could do this better than me? No one in my chapter. So that's what I did. And by doing that, I didn't empower anybody else. I disrespected assistant directors, not by anything that I did do, but things I didn't do. So those assistant directors need their time. There's another one. Assistant directors need their time as well as the directors. Your section leaders need time in front of their sections. Make sure everybody feels empowered. If a director is pushing back on that, you got to push back on that director and remember that he works for you. You don't work for him. It's not a hobby. It's a hobby, not a business. So in 1981, when I joined the society, it was a hobby. And people would come to your show, even if you weren't stellar performers. With the advent of computers and YouTube and things, people can, if they want to see the Ambassadors of Harmony or the Westminster Chorus, they can go right on there, put it widescreen, and listen to the very best our society has to offer. That doesn't mean you have to be equal to those choruses, but people want more these days. So keep that in mind. I know in January of last year, I found the hobby known as pickleball. And I am now a pickleball addict. I play 2.5 hours a day, sometimes up to 5 hours a day. And thank goodness I found that without being in barbershop, because I just miss barbershop so much, but that has kind of filled a void that I've needed to get out and be social with people and develop a new talent. So, but I spend a lot of time on that. In the summer, I play golf a couple times a week. And if it's a 4-hour round and a half hour to get to the course and back, that's 10 hours a week I'm spending on playing golf. So this is a hobby. This is something that we need to expect people to spend a little bit of time on. I know far too many barbershoppers who come to practice and don't do anything between practices. We don't want to make it a business, but it should be a hobby. During the week, we should be spending time doing things on our hobby. And we need men, especially on the MAP team, that are willing to do that. We're just doing fine without it. And we've addressed that on the surface. And for a while, can you do fine without that? Yeah. Over the long haul, no. It's got to be a team effort where you're going to burn somebody out. This is a fun chapter. This often means we don't want to put the extra effort in to improve the musical quality or to increase and maintain membership. It also seems to imply a rather narrow meaning of the word fun. So if you're a hunter, it's not fun to actually shoot a deer. If you bowl, the fun is gone if you have a 275 game. Singing in tune is less fun than being out of tune. You've got to have discerning people on the music team, people who are not satisfied with the status quo, people who always want to make sure that we're looking as to how do we get better the next month and how do we get better the next month after that aren't satisfied with just, if you're a small chapter and you are singing at a 50, for example, or a 55, singing in tune might be your first goal. Learning all your notes and words and being specific on those might be your first goal. Once you get to that, then how do we interpret? How do we bring that song to life? How do we breathe a performance out of that music? So your goals have to be realistic, but they have to be goals. We don't like contests. Okay, that's fine. I I wouldn't encourage every chorus to go to contest. Not everybody is built from the same cloth, and that's great. If you want to be the best singing society in your local town or something, that's an attribute to go after. But you have to have that goal, and you have to have men and women who are in agreement with that goal. It's too much trouble is another one we hear. It is. It takes time. It takes people who, and this is where we get back to the caring part in the 4 C's, is we want to make sure we get people in there who understand that they're going to have, you know, a couple hours of work in between practices, working on helping out and making sure that the music product is the best it can be. If we get caring people, they're not going to mind putting in too much trouble. Okay, so let's move on now that we've got these objections. And again, I encourage you, if you have any questions or if you disagree with something that we need to talk about later, put it in chat and we'll go back to chat when we get done with all. The next thing is the 10 most painful questions for chorus directors to ask themselves. So this is one of the things where you can tell if a director is in it for themselves or in it for the chorus. And of course, we want all of our directors to be in it for both. You have to get personal satisfaction out of what you're doing, but you have to understand you're part of a whole. You're the coach. If you want an analogy, the chorus director is the head football coach. The music vice president is the athletic director. He is the one that he doesn't go in and call plays, but he oversees the musical quality of the chapter, and that includes the director. So these are things that we really got to make sure that we hold our directors to as MAP team members, not for ourselves, but for the benefit of the chorus. Number one, do I come to chorus rehearsal well prepared, or do I just wing it? Would a team approach help me get better organized? Yeah, it would be yes. The director can't do everything. And if I have been and visited with chapters and coach chapters where the director comes in, says, okay, let's do warm-ups. Let's sing Down Our Way. Here we go. And to me, that shows the guys and gals that I'm not prepared. I'm just coming in, I'm taking your money, whatever you're paying me, and I'm hoping for a good result. And I'm not planning for a good result. We need people to be organized. We need our directors to come in organized. Do I project enthusiasm? Is there emotion and energy in my presentation? Would some help from talent within the chorus or outside the chorus give me more enthusiasm for the job? You can tell. You can see it in people's eyes when they sing. I see choruses out there when they sing that they stand flat-footed. Their faces don't reflect the words that they're in, and that makes me angry as a person who is taking time out of my day to listen to what I hope is a good product. I want to see you try. I want to see you give a performance. I want to see you do your best. Is the director doing that? The director is, if the director is standing up there flat-footed and doesn't have any enthusiasm on his face, it's going to be reflected in the chorus. So is that director projecting enthusiasm? 3, am I willing to learn? When's the last time I attended a district or society school workshop? Am I really keeping up with the latest techniques? Run into this all the time too, don't we? Where people say, well, I got this, and they don't want to do anything to personally develop themselves. So that's a trait we want to instill in our directors, that, hey, anybody can be better. I sing in the Men of Independence and for a guy named Gary Lewis, and Gary has had reasonable success in the Barbershop Harmony Society as a singer, and he's a terrific director. But there are things that he needs help with. And I'm sure Doug can say that of the Alliance director. I'm sure Paul can say that of Jeff Lecters. We always need to make sure we're growing, and we got to be willing to learn. Am I willing to learn? Am I willing to grow? Do I willingly seek help? When was the last time we had an outside coach? Again, I'll use the old thumb here. I was reluctant to bring in coaches because I had a system I wanted to work. And sometimes somebody would say, let's bring in a coach. And I wouldn't, if I didn't know that coach, or I didn't think he coached the same way I did, I would be reluctant in doing that. Let's find somebody who is on the same wavelength as your director, and bring them in and get them some good coaching. Am I a good manager of people and time? Am I making good use of the talent of the chapter? One of the things I see and have done on my own in the past couple times I've directed is sometimes I want to try to be as brief as possible. When I'm up there as a director, I want to give the shortest amount of instruction I can and get the guys back singing. They don't want to hear me ramble on and on like I'm doing right now, but that's my job for today. But when I'm in front of the chorus, that's not necessarily the idea that they want to hear. They want to sing. They're there to sing. They're chomping at the bit to sing. And if I'm the director and I'm up there prattling on and on, they're going to get disgusted, and they're going to be less enthusiastic about leaving. So, are we managing our time in front of the chorus? And I think that's one of the biggest things that you might want to just experiment with. Get somebody in your chapter with a stopwatch, and every time that director stops, click the stopwatch on. When he's done talking, click the stopwatch off, and see how much time during that rehearsal that person has. And then, no, I don't want to say the word confront, but go up and talk to the director and say, hey, just so you know, trying to be a buddy, trying to help you out. Here's the amount of time that you spent saying things to the chorus. And I'm going to ask you to take this time home and go back through your mind and say, could I have said that any quicker? Could I have been more succinct? That type of thing. Do I communicate with the vice president of music and performance about plans from upcoming meetings? Am I a team player? We need directors to be team players. Am I afraid of failure? Would create a music team help me succeed? Yeah. Am I set in my ways? Do I think what was good back in 1973 will cut it now? And have I asked the chapter for help, support, or ideas? Am I even interested in what they think? So again, that comes back, the same attributes we need in music team people under caring, we need that under a director. It can't just be a job for this directors. Let's go to number 6. Okay, we're organized right now. What do we do, and how do we realistically plan? If you create goals, they have to be specific goals. You need to create goals, and they need to be specific goals. And they need to be time-stamped also. The first thing that I would suggest, and this music manual suggests, establish a 5-year plan for the chapter. So, and then within that, what could be some of the goals that we want to establish? So if you are a chapter A, it might be some modest goals. You might say, gee, I want to increase the net membership by 5 men each year. So 5 years from now, and that would be net. So if we lost 2 members, we would have to get 7 new members per year. At the end of that 5-year period, we should have 25 more people on the risers. Develop a capable assistant director. So again, we go back to that guy being up front all the time. It burns you out. And if you don't have that assistant director, you probably have somebody within your chapter who would be willing to take on that role. But as a director and as map team people, you got to invest some time in that person. Send that person to Harmony College, send that person to district schools, ask for Harmony helpers to come in. We'll send a director in to work with that assistant director. Do something to make that person feel that they can fulfill that role. Develop section leaders who are able to teach and coach their sections. Huge. A lot of the smaller choruses have very few section leaders. And again, we need to invest time, energy, and money in making sure that they're better at what they do. The director can't be at all places at all times, and we need to have that time in sectionals. So make sure we're developing those section leaders. Improve the performance package by developing a visual performance coach. That's me in the Men of Independence. The one thing I'm not doing, let me admit somebody else, the one thing I'm not doing, I'm not a member of the music team, but what I am is the visual presentation coach. That doesn't mean I come up with choreography. We have an outside choreographer that does that. But when she leaves, it's my job to make sure that weekly that we move forward in that plan, so that I have some time every week to work with the guys to make sure that they're making the moves at the right time, that they look natural in making those moves, and so on and so forth. So I think we probably all have somebody in our chapter that can stand out front and kind of do that, and kind of make sure that all the guys are smiling when they're supposed to smile, that their posture looks good, that they're reflecting the message of the song. And that is a huge thing. So to me, every chorus needs one of those fellas. And if I'm a director and I'm directing, I can't listen, coach visually, and coach vocally all at the same time. It takes away my ability to fulfill my mission, to be that enthusiastic person in front, to pull good performance out of my sections. So if I'm trying to do that myself, it's not going to work. I don't care how good you are. You need that person standing out there so that the director can focus on one thing, and you can help focus, take that away from that director and make sure that that's fulfilled. Improve the variety of instructional approaches in chapter meetings so that we don't have the exact same meeting every week. I know guys that have come into the chapter, if you warm up, you say, we're going to warm up from 7:30 to 7:45. Guess when some people show up, right? 7:45. They're walking in and they didn't have to warm up. And warm-ups aren't just warm-ups, folks. And we all realize this, I hope, if you're a vice president of the music team, that warm-ups are Nebby Creeper entered the waiting room. Nebby Creeper. Okay. See who Nebby Creeper is. But we are not, warm-ups are not just getting our voices warm up. Chances are, if you're meeting at night, your voice, you've been talking all day, and your voice is already fairly warm, but it's about unit sound. It's about getting that togetherness so that when we go into our sectionals and stuff, we already have that present. So let's make sure that we have a really good quartet show up at 7:30 and make guys miss practice, and have them come in and the quartet's already done, and you're crap, you know. Shake things up, stir things up, have some variety, and make sure that it's fun. Make sure that it's engaging every week and not exactly the same thing each and every week. Seek more performance opportunities in the community through an active chorus manager. Who did not join this organization to just sing in chapter meetings and go home? Yeah, so we're all performers. We all joined this so that we can sing with our brothers and sisters in harmony, but we can also, we want to perform. We are hams, and we should be willing to admit that and wear that proudly on our shoulders. So, you know, let's get those performance opportunities. And if, you know, once a district, a year is probably not enough. We need those performance opportunities, and they come when those 4 C's are taken care of. When we care about what we're doing, when we create mission statements, when we drive our musical program through a concerted effort to get better. With that comes better performances, come more performances, and we all want that. Develop a teaching quartet so the chorus may learn new music faster and more frequently. Always a good idea. If you don't know, there's J.G. Lombardo came up with a method where you listen and you have a teaching quartet up there, and go through the song about 13 times, and about the 13th time you go through the song, you're going to be pretty much off the paper, at least for notes and words. But you know, there's lots of different techniques out there, but a teaching quartet to bring that out is great. That is this I don't know when this manual has been written, but now that we have so many great learning tracks out there, that may subvert a teaching quartet as far as that's concerned. That may be replaced by section leaders, and you can use the learning tracks. So that's great. If you like to use the teaching quartet, by all means do that. But some chapters just don't have the ability. If it's a teaching quartet, you want to make sure it's a good teaching quartet. If they're up there singing out of tune or missing notes, then it's a bad teaching quartet. They're teaching bad things. So in that case, use the learning track. If you have good enough guys to do that, create that. And create a goal of how many new songs you're going to learn every year. This one says 6 new songs, and I think that's reasonable. When I did programs, I directed Penn, Ohio back in the late 90s, and we had 67 on stage at one point in time. And what we would try to do is rotate in and write show scripts up about, we plug in 6 new songs and use 6 songs from the previous year. And then we drop those and get 6 new songs. And that would be our rotation. It doesn't have to be yours. It just worked well for us. But you need to have goal. I was in 2 different quartets recently. One quartet was Premier Sound, and that was from 2009 to 2013. And then I was in Unfinished Business to the present. And we did a couple different chapter shows. One is Premier Sound, one is Unfinished Business. And when I would listen to the chorus, they could have pre-recorded their show and just put it up on a screen because they had the same songs over and over again. And, you know, to me, that isn't interesting. If I pay money to come in and I want to spend 2.5 hours at a show, I want to hear some new stuff. And I think most of your audience members, your wives and husbands and kids and church friends are going to come anyhow. But let's not take them for granted. Let's give them something that they can really use. All right, and then there is a B. I'm not going to go through all of these, but some people might say, let's be aggressive. Let's double the size of our chapter membership. Let's develop a complete music team with emphasis on singing, music, and presentation categories, coaches, and judge candidates. Let's develop vocal instruction program with private or small group lessons for each man at least 4 times a year. I would put that in category A. I don't think we do enough with our chapter members with PBIs. Another thing I like to do with the Men of Independence is when somebody new comes in, I take them out and I voice place them as far as where I think they should be in the chorus. And then if after the first night, if they come back a second night, I'll take them in and do a 5 to 10 minute evaluation of them as far as where I see their voice being on a scale of 1 to 10. And write some little notes to send to the music team as to, hey, this guy's really good on this. He reads music quickly. His tone is not exactly in tune as we like it to be. And I would put in, this guy is ready for audition or he's not ready for audition and I need to spend time. So I think we need to do that. I think every chorus needs to do that. That's a me thing. That's not what's in the VHS manual. But I think we need to invest in our directors. We need to invest in our assistant directors. We need to invest in our section leaders, and we need to invest in each and every member of the chorus. And there are guys in your areas who will do PVIs. If you need that as part of the Harmony Helper program, request a guy to come in and do PVIs with your guys and spend maybe 10 minutes with each guy in your chorus for one night. We'll do that. We've got people that can do that. So invest in everybody in your chorus, not just your director. After you get that 5-year plan, then we've got to figure out how do we get there and how do we measure that. Establish a 1-year plan. Decide which techniques and what manpower can be used to begin the meeting of those long-term goals. When new music team is organized, it should have some idea of what the chapter would like to accomplish in the first year. So this goes back to what we talked about earlier with transparency. We want to make sure that we can have all the great ideas in the world. We can have all the enthusiasm in the world, but we also might be unrealistic as what the chapter wants. One of the things that I see a lot of times is a dissonance when there's chapters out there that are looking for new directors at this time. There's a thing called director mismatch. When you hire someone, you want to have the best person you can get out there, but that person might want to come in and say, okay, later this year, we're going to competition and we're going to raise our music score up 20 points and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And the chapter looks at him and goes, what? That's not what we hired you for. And the reason that didn't work is we didn't establish 1-year plans. We didn't bring that to the attention of the director that we want to hire and say, here's what our chapter wants. Can you do this? And are you in agreement with that? So we need to establish a 1-year plan, and we need to probably measure that at least quarterly to make sure that we're on pace to that 1-year plan. The one thing you don't want to do is 11 months into this, look back and say, boy, we are not anywhere near where we wanted to be or where we said we were going to be. Because what does that do? That destroys your relationship with the chapter. You said you're going to do something and you don't do that. So we need to find ways to measure that. And I would say at least quarterly. Monthly is probably not realistic because you have people on vacation, you have snowbirds that go south, and that your chapter will change as some key people leave and come back. So, but quarterly, I think, is very reasonable for that. And then the next thing you'd want to do is present those plans to the chapter. You can do nothing unless they want and agree to what you're trying to do. And you may lose some people over this. If you want to have an aggressive musical program and 80% of the chapter wants that, I ran into this. I was working with a chapter down in the Pittsburgh area, and we had about a third of the chapter that just wanted to have fun. They wanted to go sing. They didn't want to work in between practices. And then they wanted to go out for beers afterwards and sing quartets at this American Legion Hall. That's great. That's fine. If the whole chapter wants to do that, who am I to say they shouldn't do that? But we had about 2/3 to 3/4 of the chapter that said, "No, we want to get better. I mean, we're not satisfied with the way we're singing. We want to do more jobs out in public, and we are not doing what we need to do to be that chorus." So we had there was about 25 members, and we had about 5 members leave because they wanted to have their beer and sing in quartets and do that thing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So don't be afraid to fail. If you have the chorus on board, there's always going to be a couple people that are going to say, yeah, that's not what we want to do, and that's okay. And you may lose those people, and that's okay too. But you'll gain back, I think, better singers if you have goals like that. I had a guy, and I'm trying to think. His last name was Geyer. He was from Kentucky, and he had a chorus down in Kentucky. He had 37 singers in his chorus. And one year, everybody was sitting out from their district except Louisville. And Louisville was not singing exceptionally well at that time. And he said, I want to be the district representative at International. And we're going to work, and I'm going to give PBIs, and we're going to really work hard. And he lost. And he said, we're going to do auditions. You have to, for the audition, you have to be note perfect and word perfect, no exceptions. He said, but in order to do that, I am available he had his own business. He said, I will make time for you during the day. And if you can't get it, if you're having issues, I want you to call me and we'll schedule an appointment and I'll work with you to make sure that you're that guy. Well, about 22 of them qualified out of 37. And he said, I'm only taking the guys that are note perfect and word perfect. And he was very, very, very astonished when he came back that all but 2 guys came back. Even of the 13 that didn't make it, all but 2 came back. And he got another 5 or 6 singers on top of that, who the guys got excited about what they were doing because they were learning new techniques. They were learning to sing better. And they started inviting their better singing buddies to come. And all of a sudden he ended up with a better chorus than he had. He took a risk in losing some of the guys who weren't as good and who didn't want to work, but he got back better singers off that. So don't be afraid to fail is what I'm saying on these things. Okay, so we've talked about your director's plans. We've talked about the musical director. How do you select that musical director? This is crucial. And the most crucial part is to make sure that you're matching up your goals and their goals together. You have to have somebody who's going to come into your chapter and is going to get on board with what you want. It can't be with what they want. Again, it's a team approach. And if the chapter has come up with a 5-year musical plan and a year musical plan, you give that to your proposed director and say, here's what we want to do. Are you okay with this? Is this something that you want to be involved in? And if it's not, you probably don't hire that person. I would want to come in if I was going to direct again, which I probably won't. But if I wanted to direct again, I would want to direct a chorus that wants to go to district and wants to do well at district. And if a chapter said, well, gee, Jeff, we'd love to have you as director, but we don't want to go to contest, I probably wouldn't take that job, because that would frustrate me, and that would frustrate them, because I would be trying to say, hey guys, you're really singing well. You know, if we went to contest, I would be trying to get my way with them, and they'd be trying to get their way with me, and that's a mismatch. So the duties of the job itself must be carefully spelled out so that each person knows exactly what he or she is to do. If there's an overlap of duties or a need to work with another team member, then it should be clearly understood as well. So again, when you hire that director, you make sure they know that there's a music team, and the music team is, as a whole, with them in there, is responsible for the music plan. It isn't just them, so that they're not going to come in and say, well, here's the way it's going to be, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. You're working with a music team for that. What is the duties of a vice president of music and performance? So here we get specific with what you're supposed to do. You would think it would be a musical job. It is partially a musical job, I think, but it is more often than a musical job. It's a organizational job. You have to be able to pull people together to do things. That's your number one responsibility. It isn't to be the best musician. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. He or she must be well organized and capable of pulling diverse elements together for a successful program. Good skills in delegating duties. Huge, huge, huge. Write that down. You've got to be able, everybody on your team has to have a mission. They have to feel like they're part of a structure that is going to be successful in the long run. You can't do it all. You shouldn't do it all. The same thing I said as of a director who tries to do it all. That's the same problem we're having with Vice President of Musical Development. Make sure that you are good at delegating those duties. You should have some musical background. It's desired but not absolutely necessary. Most of your duties are administrative, and I think that's a misnomer that we find out from people. Oh, well, so and so is a really good singer, let's make them vice president. Or if so and so has been around barbershop a long time and knows that, let's make him or her the vice president of musical, MAP team president, vice president. Not necessarily, because if that person is a loner, or that person doesn't know how to delegate responsibility, it's probably not a good candidate. That might be a good candidate for a section leader or an assistant director, but it's not a good candidate for what you need to do, because you need to be able to pull people together. You need to be able to delegate authority to people. Your responsibilities: coordinate the music team and all of its activities. That includes music team plans with chapter development vice president. Keep the chapter informed of all team goals and musical plans. That gets back to what we spoke about already. Assist the chorus director in planning their rehearsal segment, so it's an integral part of the weekly chapter meeting. I've run into chapters who have a chapter development vice president, and he makes out, or she makes out, the schedule for the week with or without the director's input, or with or without the MAP team input. I think that's really wrong. I think we need to have the MAP team and the director maybe get together for 5 or 10 minutes right after practice and say what went well, what didn't go so well. And hey, boy, we had that intro to the ballad. It did not go well. Let's hit that again next week, and let's make sure we put that in there. And one of the other things you got to make sure you do, and this doesn't happen often enough in chapters. If you want people to practice and come to practice next week prepared, what do they need? They need to know what they're supposed to practice. So if you are a Thursday night meeting like Men of Independence, on Saturday morning, I expect, as a member, I expect to get an email from the music vice president, says, hey guys, here's what we're going to be working on. Here's the schedule for the following week. Here's what we're going to be working on. And I want to see measure 57 to measure 106 in the uptune. I want to see in Christmas, we're going to be introducing the first Noel, get that music out, listen to the learning tracks, come prepared to have that fairly note perfect, not necessarily off the paper, but know where you're supposed to be so we can move this forward. We need specific goals for the musicians during the week so that they come prepared. And that's your responsibility as map team person. And again, you can delegate that to somebody else in the map team. You can delegate that to the director, but it needs to be something that everybody knows and everybody is comfortable with. Assist the chorus director in planning. So yes, we did that. Let me go to the next page. Prepare an annual team music budget for board approval. So this is a big one. You can't go to your board and say, hey, we've got an opportunity to bring in Joe Conley, and it's going to cost, with airfare, it's going to cost $1,000. Most chapters don't have that kind of spending cash allocated. And so at the beginning of the year, you need to say, hey, we want to have a coach in 3 times. Let's budget this X amount for that coach. We're going to want to send the director to Harmony College, and it's going to cost us this much in transportation expenses and this much in housing and for the courses itself. And we want to send our assistant directors to the district. We want to have somebody come in from the district to coach our assistant directors. We want to bring 6 new songs in, so we're going to need music for that and learning tracks. Figure out what that is. If you have training sessions, sometimes you have a retreat. I know Cincinnati goes on a retreat. Men of Independence have done that. Many of your courses probably have done that. There's going to be an expense in that, and your board needs to know how much money to allocate and approve for that. Extra miscellaneous expenses. Do you pay for costumes? Do you pay for guest folders, props for the show? These are all things that you need to think about and present the board with. Work with the music director to select all music team personnel and present the proposed list to the chapter board for approval. Sometimes that's a formality, and I don't know structurally if you need to do that, but I think, again, for the appearance of transparency, we should be looking to do that. We should be bringing that to the board and say, here's the guys that we want to have on our music team, and make sure that there's no pushback on it. Implement the plans and needs of the music team, including all materials and supplies for each rehearsal. Voice placement forms for visitors. We didn't have that. I created one for that so that I could say, I think this guy's a bass, and here's where he's good at, here's what he's not good at, here's what he needs to improve on. Audition records for new members. Progress records for group or individualized vocal instruction, PVIs. Write down good things, bad things, what they need to work on, and make sure they know what they need to work on so that they can do that, and expect them to work on those things. I mean, if you have an expectation of musical excellence, then they need to know what their role in that is and how much time they need to spend on it. Oversee recording and making of learning tracks, either for commercial sale or chapter use in training, auditioning, or teaching new music. As I said, this is kind of an old manual. I think there are so many good learning tracks out there now. There are also bad learning tracks out there. So before you order a bunch of learning tracks for a chapter, you might want to have whoever's doing those learning tracks send you a sample. Maybe it wouldn't even be that song, but you can hear their voice and you can judge for yourself the accuracy with which they put forth those things. Bob playing the keyboard and singing along with a part is really not a good learning track for the chorus. If you have guys in your chorus that can do that, I mean, Gary does all of our learning tracks. Gary Lewis does our learning tracks. He also does them for a group down south that people might have heard of, the Vocal Majority. So when Gary sends out learning tracks, I'm pretty confident it's accurate, and I'm pretty confident that the quality is going to be good. But just because the learning tracks are on a VHS site doesn't mean they're good. I've ordered them for other choruses and got some really pretty bad learning tracks. So make sure you hear a sample of that before you order them and pay for them, because there are some guys out there who think they are better than they are, and they aren't. Keep the music team informed of schools, seminars, and music leadership training sessions offered by the district or society. So Johnny Appleseed, I can't speak for our brothers and sisters in our other society places, but in the Johnny Appleseed district, I think we're really good about that, getting out information for Leadership Academy, getting out information for the district schools. We beg people to come. So if you aren't hearing from us, you're not opening your email or refusing phone calls, because we are adamant about making sure you guys have all the resources you need. And then again, evaluate on a regular basis the goals as set by the music team. Okay, just looking at my watch here. Okay, we're at 10 o'clock. We're making good progress here. So I'm going to speed up a little bit, because again, the most important part of this is the discussions we're going to have afterwards. Music director. I'm not going to go through all of these, but musical knowledge is a given. Barbershop background and experience is really important, but it isn't. There aren't a ton of people out there that are great vocal singers that have barbershop background and are willing to just walk in there. I mean, you see, if you follow the site or Express at all, it takes chapters, months to find somebody. So it's not an immediate process. Here's the big one: motivational skills. Good directors are salesmen. They can cause people around them to be excited about singing and learning. I think that is probably the best qualification for a director, is somebody who's up there who isn't going to be, was it Ben Stein in Ferris Bueller? Bueller, open your page to 181. That's not the guy you want as your director. No matter how well. I had a professor in college that taught music theory, and he was the most monotone, stone-faced guy in the world. He knew music theory inside and out, but I had to fight to stay awake in his class because he wasn't motivating. He wasn't that salesperson I needed. Physical coordination. A successful director is usually able to express the mood and music and lyrics through body language. That's a big thing. If you want the chorus to stand straight with chest out and with their chin up and singing and emoting, you've got to be that guy who mirrors that. You've got to be that guy or gal out front who has that passion, and it just shows. You don't have to ask if that person is motivated to direct. They just are, and it shows and it reflects to the chorus director, to chorus people. Feeling for the music, making sure that director has that ability to interpret that song and really bring the best out of you guys. And I think that goes hand in hand with the physical coordination also. Positive personality traits. And the big one that I get out of that is he or she is also enough to listen to the opinion of others. You've got to have somebody who doesn't say, well, I'm doing the best job and there's nothing I can do to be better. You've got to have that person who says, I can always do better. What do you think? What are you seeing from me when I'm up here? Pride in performance, willingness to learn. Is that person willing to go to a district school, willing to go to Harmony College and say, you know what, I think I'm pretty good, but I could probably be better. And you need that person that has that ability. We have a director's track at LeadAc. We offer that at Harmony, or that Apple Core, Harmony University. There's many places, and then through Harmony Helpers. So there are many places we can go for assets to get that done. The duties of a musical director include developing a yearly musical plan for the chapter. And this is, again, part of the MAP team. It's your responsibility to get the director on board, but give that director a lot of input in what he or she would like to see for the year. Supervise the activity of those members of the music team who deal directly with the chorus in a teaching or performance capacity. Once again, if you have a section leader, you want to make sure that section leader is able to sing the part, able to demonstrate good vocal technique. And if he or she isn't, then we need to get the help that they need so that they can do that. But that's, again, that would be something I would do as a director. I would make sure that my assistants and the people who are in front of the chorus doing the teaching are able to do that. And if they aren't, I would want to get them help. Direct, and here's one that I kind of disagree with. It says direct all public performance of the chorus unless ill or otherwise incapacitated. If you have good assistant directors and you're singing for the Rotary Club with 50 people in the audience, that's a good time to let that person, that assistant director, have a little front time. If you go down, if you're the only person that they ever see out front, and you get sick a day before your contest or a day before your a big show, that assistant director, no matter how good he or she isn't able to step in and do the same job you are because you haven't let them do that. So I would modestly disagree with direct all public performances. Direct at the annual chapter show, sure. Direct for chorus competitions, absolutely. But the more we get of those local jobs around the area, I think the more you want to plug in assistant directors and give them some props. They have egos just like you do as a director, and we need to give them time in front of the chorus for them and for the chorus to be able to react to them, so that if something happens to you as a frontline director, we have somebody who's capable of going in and taking over and really not missing a beat. Director selection process. The chapter board is ultimately responsible for the selection of director, not y'all. So just be aware of that. This is a board decision. Many chapters throughout the society choose to appoint a special director selection committee, and that would be a couple of music team members should be in on that, because we need to make sure musically that person is in agreement with what we've set forth to do. Depending on the musical level of the chapter and the needs of the course as determined the board or director selection committee, the search may proceed in several ways. Here's one that's you've got to evaluate for yourselves. Qualified men or women on the chapter's own music team should be encouraged to apply for the job. What if they don't get the job? If somebody comes in and is more qualified, or they see themselves as more qualified than the person that you've hired, what's going to happen there? So I think that's a chapter decision. You've got to kind of weigh that yourselves and decide whether you want to open it up to a music team member based on personality. That's a tough one to do. So I would think about that. Nearby chapters who have assistant directors who might be both qualified and interested may be contacted. So if you have somebody near you that's an assistant director, they might want to be moving up, and that director that they're directing with may not be ready to step down. That might be a great place to look. Notice of opening may be sent to local music teachers or musicians in the community. Sure. Personal experience. Vocal. I have a degree in music education, and that degree allows me to teach either vocal music or band. You don't want me as your band director for two reasons. Number one, I got through band. I learned the instruments because I had to, not because I wanted to. And if anybody would have offered me a band job, I would have turned it down, because that's not what I want to do. I wanted to teach senior high or college level vocal music. The band guy might be great at instrumental. He might not be, or she might not be as good as far as singing is concerned. So be careful with that. I'm not saying don't do that, but your vocal music people are probably going to be your first go-to as far as getting that concerned, because that's what they're there for. That's where they live. Ads may be placed in chapter, district, or society publications. You guys are already doing that, who have a need for that, so we'll move that. Moving on to directors' contracts. Once a director is selected, you need a sample, you need a contract. And if you order that music team manual, this 4042, through the society, it gives you in the back several forms, and one of which is a sample music contract for a director. You might want to use that as a basis for forming one, and then tweak it to meet your chapter expectations and remunerations for that. But there is a good form in the back of that 4042 from the Barbershop Harmony Society. Let's go over some qualifications for assistant directors. Again, I can't tell you how important assistant directors are. You have one person up front doing everything, and that person goes down. You need somebody that is ready, willing, and available to do maybe not 100% the job that the director is, but certainly 80 to 90%. And so what do you look for in assistants, and what are you looking for as far as qualifications? So one of the things that the BHS manual suggests is, in addition, it might be useful for each assistant director to have his or her own particular area of expertise in which to specialize. So that person that is your visual coach, if you have an assistant director and you don't have a visual coach in your chapter, that would be something I would use the assistant director for, is to really help them become that visual coach, be able to stand out in front of the chorus with you while you direct, watch the guys or gals up front, and making sure that they're looking like what you want them to look like. That if they're making any moves, that they do that at the right time, in the right way, with the right smile on their face. That takes pressure off you as a director, and it also gives that assistant director something else to put a feather in their hat. Some chapters use the term associate director to indicate top assistant director. He or she is usually the music director's right-hand man or woman, and may have conducting or coaching responsibilities over and above the usual assistant director duties. So you may have somebody in your chapter. In Men of Independence, Gary is our frontline director, but we have Dave Rubin, who's been a 15-year music judge. So a lot of times Dave will go out front. A lot of times I will be out front working visually with them. A lot of times Puck will come out front and do some things. So you need to really make sure that you're feeding your horses and getting them out front and getting them involved in the chapter, not only for your sake, but for the chapter's sake too. The director needs to attend all music team meetings and planning sessions, and assist the director in monitoring the progress. Your assistant director, I'm sorry, needs to attend all the music team meetings and planning sessions because he or she will be on the music team. An assistant director in monitoring the progress of each section in terms of learning new music, developing good unit sound, and correcting specific vocal patterns. Let's move forward now again. And again, I'm encouraging you to put your thoughts down, either if you're writing them down under these sections. If you're writing them down, write them down or put them in the chat. And when we get done with this, we will go through these parts. Section leaders. What do we need for section leaders? They must be carefully selected, as any member in the music team should be. They've got to have those 4 same traits: caring, coordination, the ability to delegate. In addition to that, they should have some sight singing skills. They should be accurate singers. A lot of times they have to demonstrate if the section is missing a part, they need to make sure that they have that accuracy and they can do that part. Vocal quality is also desirable. Positive, helpful personality, probably the #1 thing you need to look for in a section leader. Good communication skills, and someone who will gain the respect of his section. And I think if you do the first 5 things that we mentioned, that will be an automatic. If you're good at communicating, if you're a builder-upper person, if you sing at your voice part accurately, that's just something that will come along. And another big one is regular attendance. What are their duties? Assist. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm got these.
Well, I guess we'll give him a minute.
And then poof, he's gone. I wonder if he'll let himself back into the meeting.
I wonder how quickly he'll realize that he's gone.
Maybe we can keep him out.
I only see a couple of things in the chat thus far. So if you've got anything else that you're going to want to, because we're coming up on only about 15 minutes away from taking a break, I think. So
he mentioned that 6 new songs a year is something that is a good goal. How many songs do your choruses learn a year, new ones, approximately?
Akron Derbytown did, I think, 7 for our show. And then when COVID hit, because the show was postponed, obviously we're doing the exact same show in September that we would have done last year. In order to not have that stale, I pulled out the learning tracks and the information for the hospital program, you know, where you can sing for the hospitals. And so we've been learning all of those songs so that it was something new. And then we learned the societies, you know, a couple of free ones, but just to keep it new and not sing show songs every single week and get really boring and bogged down, because we still want to do that show, which is Elvis in the House. So the guys really like all the songs. We just we sing them occasionally, but not every single week. So
I just got a message from Jeff. He got disconnected on his side, obviously. He would like to go ahead and start the break now. Ariel, do you pronounce it Ariel?
Ariel, thanks for
Ariel, sorry about that. Can you put your question about that in the chat, and so that we can revisit it later? That's a good question, and don't want that to get lost.
I have it written down on a different paper, so no worries.
Groovy. So go ahead and go stretch your legs and meet back at 10:25, and hopefully he figures out how to get back in here.
That you know, people have to comply, so that's all there is. So, well, it's 10:25. Are we back? Most of us back. If you aren't, you can get caught up. I'm going to try to move. The second part of this should go pretty quickly, and I will try to make sure that happens. And then I want to make sure we identify your needs, specific needs that you have, specific questions you have. And again, when we get past this phase, we should be unmuting everyone. We shouldn't be unmuting everyone. We should have a person who is asking the question, ask it, and then we'll raise our hands if you have an answer, or if you want to address that particular question in chat, that we can do that. But so let me see here. All right. So it's 10:25. I'm going to continue this. One of the things I said earlier that I thought was very important is to have a chorus manager, to have one person who you can point to, who if somebody comes up and say, hey, you sing with the Singing Buckeyes, don't you? Yeah, I do. Oh, we would just love to have you come and sing at our nursing home, or we'd love to have you come and sing for our civic group, or we'd love to have you come and entertain at a party for 500 people, that you can point to and say, hey, you need to talk to Lane Bushong. Lane is our chorus manager, and Lane has all the prices. He has the dates that the chorus is available, and somebody to point to do that. That manager should have good organizational skills, should be able to pull up calendars and understand that the director or assistant directors won't be on vacation that week. Have the okay from the board to go ahead and book jobs on that date. Be able to give a price. Be able to put together. Hey, do you want a half-hour show? Do you want an hour show? You might incorporate some chapter quartets with that, or you may have to bring in some outside quartets if you don't have that. But that is a crucial thing. If you want to get jobs, I've been in choruses where 4 or 5 different people will be in touch with people, and it just doesn't work. So I think a chorus manager would be a good person to have. And as I said before, this is totally an organizational position. It's not a music position. It could very easily be someone's husband or wife that's in the chorus, who isn't even a member of the chorus, but just takes care of the outside bookings. But they need to understand a little about your organization, and they need to be organized and know who's going to be there and what is expected for remuneration, or if it's going to be free. I'm an entertainer. I'm a performer. I want to do that no matter what the cost. So if we need to go to if we're not getting enough jobs and we want to volunteer to go to nursing homes or something along those lines, great. Let's get out and perform. That's what we practice for. but the course manager should attend all music team meetings and planning sessions and make sure that they're well informed about the plans and needs of the music team and chapter performance public standards. Know the details of the course show package, how long you can perform for, how many, if they say we need somebody for an hour and you have a half hour, you've got to know that and say, look, the longest program we offer is a half-hour program. I'll be glad to give you a price on that. The requirements for the course performance. Policies regarding the availability of singers, frequency of performance, and physical needs. Do we need to bring our risers? Is there a place for us to change? Is there a waiting room where we can warm up? Those are all things that we need to know as a professional singing organization, and the course manager would be responsible for making sure that that happens. I'm going to skip over some of the other stuff because I think it's pretty obvious. One of the other things is if you have people who need walkers or wheelchairs that are performers, and we have a lot in our society because of the age of our society, make sure that there are ramps or ways to get that performer down to the stage where you're going to be performing. Let's move forward now to, and I'm going to leave, another really important position is the librarian. We have Doug's brother. We were just talking about Doug's brother, Larry. And if you don't know, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing. Doug's brother, Larry, is 76 and he is a member of the Men of Independence. And he has, he's in very dire straits with COVID pneumonia. And so if you would keep Larry in your prayers, I'm sure Doug and I would both be very happy if you would do that. But Larry is our chapter librarian, and Larry gets there a little early. If Gary says, okay, we're going to start this new music, he has that ready for us, and he passes it out during warm-ups so that we have it ready to go. We also, I don't know for what reason we don't have that available digitally on our website. We have all of our learning tracks on our website, so that when we want to access those learning tracks, we can just go and either download them or play them right from the website. But we really don't have our pieces of music on that. Excuse me, I'm I got some bronchial things going on this morning. So, but the librarian is very, very important. Needs to be a regular attender. Again, good organizational skills. Knows the music library needs of the chapter. Works closely with the VP of Music and Performance to order new music. Works with the chorus director concerning instruction plans so as to have the music ready to distribute. Works with the assistant directors if audio tapes are to be kept in the library. Sometimes we have audition things when we go to contest, and that would be a good thing to keep, especially if you wanted to compare and contrast. Let's say I gave a PVI last year to somebody and I give a PVI this year to give somebody. I can go back last year and hear what they sounded like last year and to see if they've made performance improvements. And that would be something I would store with the librarian. Maintain a well-organized chapter music library, including all chapter music, current repertoire, guest books. Huge. Does your chapter have guest books, and are they current? I can't believe how many chapters I've visited. Doug, when he was president of our district, visited every single chapter, and I'm sure Doug will nod his head by saying when he went there and they gave him a guest folder, they weren't always up to date. Yeah, and they'd say, okay, we're going to do this, and Doug would look in his guest folder and that wouldn't be in there. What does that say to a guest when they come in and you don't have their folder updated? So that's a huge thing for the respect and professionalism of your chapter. If you want qualified, really good singers to join you, you've got to put forth that effort. You've got to put forth that that thing that everybody wants to be a part of. And professionalism and organizational skills are key to that. Knowledge of copyright laws. So one of the things a librarian might do is serve as an excellent resource person by having a working knowledge of copyright information. When you buy music, you buy a certain amount of copies, and a lot of times you'll buy them digitally, and you say, I'm going to order 75 copies. You have access to 75 copies. And if somebody just goes out and makes a copy, that's not what ASCAP is looking for. They're looking to get paid for their copies and stuff. So it's a very important thing that librarian is the only one that's in charge of making new music. If you lose your music, don't go to Bob next to you and say, hey, make me a copy of this song for next week. Go to the librarian and go through that channel and make sure that everything that we're doing is legal. I know
So
when
Jeff,
I was with,
sorry,
Go ahead.
Jeff, Paul Coleman here. I think you
Yes.
just answered your question from before about why your music's not digital yet.
Okay,
Because anybody can reach in and anybody can reprint more copies.
I guess that's true. Yeah. I'd like to say that, gee, we could trust everybody not to do that, but not necessarily the thing. Okay, let's move forward. Thank you, Paul, for that input. Part of your job is the selection of new music. How many songs? Are you going to do contest songs? Are you going to keep the same contest songs? The theme of the show. Where do you find music? Is it random or cohesive? How do you introduce music for the maximum effect? When do you do it? How many at a time? Who makes learning tracks? Is there time for music team training, etc.? So one of the things you need to do is develop a cohesive plan to put out music with the director. I'll speak for myself. One of the things I would do, we would pick 6 new songs. And I would look at the 6 new songs we picked. I would pick the hardest song and I would introduce that one first. And I would give the guys 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And again, this may change with how good your chorus is at learning music or how much time they want or what your expectations are. But I picked 3 weeks and I said, after 3 weeks, I don't want to see a copy of this music in your folder or you taking it out of your folder and using it. Because 3 weeks from now, I'm going to introduce the second song. And 3 weeks after that, I'm going to introduce the third song. I think as directors and as map team people, we need to have a expectation from our chorus. We're going to set goals for them. We got to get them to identify and agree with those goals. And then once we do that, we've got to hold them to that standard. And that's why it's so important to have monthly meetings and quarterly progress reports to make sure we're doing that. But I think introducing a new song every couple of weeks and having them get off the paper, that would be a great way to start things. Again, you might want to tweak it to 4 weeks or even 5 weeks if you're more of a community-oriented chapter versus a chapter that goes to international every year and sings at a very high level in the upper 70s or 80s. So that's one of the things you really want to look at is when do you put them out? How many songs? And again, this is where the musical knowledge of the director and assistant directors you probably want to lean on to see how many songs do you think that the chorus is capable, not of learning, but of mastering. Can a chorus learn 6 songs? Sure. Can they learn it to the point where they make it their own? Can they perform 6 songs? Can they get them off the paper, be note perfect, be word perfect, and then be able to emote and make that song their own? If they can do that, maybe they can do 8. That's your job as music VP to work with the director to make sure that happens, that you get the right thing. Make sure you rotate contest songs as applicable. Some choruses have the same contest song for 3 or 4 years, others change yearly. What is the right one for your chorus? That's up to you to come up with. Decide, is it working? Do we want to bring maybe one new contest song in and keep the ballad or keep the uptune? That's what you guys do. That's the decision you guys make. How do you introduce the music for the maximum effect? Is it a teaching quartet? Some of you like to use a teaching quartet. Is it learning tracks? Personally, if I'm running the thing, I'm gonna make sure as a director that I pick the music. I get all 6 copies of the music that are the new songs out immediately to the guys and the learning tracks. But then I'm going to guide when they learn them and my expectations are of them coming off the paper. And we're going to be going to sections and doing things like that. Doug?
Along those lines, I think, and I've done this in the past and we're going to do it again, is I made an Excel spreadsheet of timelines. And I think that's important for the guys to communicate with your members, say, here's when we're bringing it out. Here's when you're supposed to have it, where you can sing it. And here's where you're supposed to be off paper. And here's where you're going to be auditioned and audited to make sure that we can help you if you're not up to par on that. So
Yep.
I think that's kind of a nice thing to do. And that's really important to the members to know when we're bringing out those songs and how we're going to introduce it. And I love the fact that you said the hardest song first, because that's the way.
Okay, Doug, can you all hear me again? Okay, so great points. Again, I'll echo exactly what Doug said there. That shows professionalism. That shows a desire to get your chapter and to act in the most professional way. If you want professional people to join you, you need to make sure you're operating in a professional manner. And that's just one of those other things that anything that you can add from an organizational standpoint, it makes you look better. It just makes you look like you really want people to be there. You're looking for people who are willing to commit some time and energy to do things. You don't just want somebody walking in off the street, sings during the chorus rehearsal, goes home, and then doesn't look at something the next week. That isn't the type of person that we need. If we really want to entertain and be great at what we do, that's not the type of person we're looking for. Let's go on to public performance standards. So this is your job too. It's the chorus manager's job to do the dates and do the remuneration and do all the things that we mentioned before. It is your job to tell the chorus manager when you are available to do a package. If you're in a learning mode and you're learning new music and you're not spending time on repertoire, which you should spend some time on repertoire, but if you aren't doing that, it might not be the best time to take jobs on. So the course manager needs to know if you're working on, you just started Christmas music and it's October and they're looking for a job the 1st of November. Obviously, you probably aren't going to be doing Christmas music because you probably don't have it off the paper and have it down to the point yet. But you may have neglected your repertoire from the spring. So you may not be ready for a job then. You need to let the chorus manager know, hey, we're not going to be taking any jobs from October 15th until December 1st, because that's the time we need to spend rehearsing and really concentrating on making music our own for our upcoming Christmas show or shows. So that's a big thing that you really should be ready to do that. Ask yourself this, will you be ready to do a job worthy of your mission statement? You have a mission statement, you have goals set, you have quarterly goals you'd like to meet. You want to be at a certain point in time, and are you going to be able to do a job that you're going to be proud of and that audience is going to be enthralled with? And if you're not, don't take the job, and that's what you determine. You get to determine the amount of performances you feel your chorus deserves. So some choruses would do a job every week. Some choruses would do 3 or 4 jobs a year. That's your job, and the director's job is to ascertain what you want to do and how many times you want to do it. There is no right answer. The right answer is what works for your chorus and what is in your mission statement. In your mission statement, you may want to include, we want to have at least 12 public performances a year, averaging 1 a month. That might be a goal that you put in your mission statement. I think it would be certainly something worthy of that. And then you plug in as many as you can, as many as you want and when you want. But again, they have to be ready, musically ready for that. Will you have singing and visual requirements to perform? What standards will you set for new members? So this is a big thing for chapters, and there isn't any one chapter that does it right or wrong. It's what's right or wrong for your chapter. If I were going in to join Westminster Chorus, they may have an age chapter where I'm twice as old as I need to be to get in their chapter. I don't know, but I'm sure they have very strict standards. Same with the vocal majority and other international champion chapters, where you may say, hey, we're a community chapter. Our standards might be lower than theirs. We want to get the guys or girls with that really like to have fun, and that's fine. but you get to set the standards. You get to say when somebody is ready to join your chapter and how they do that. One of the things that they don't mention in here that I like, I designed a pamphlet for our chapters, and it said, so you want to sing with the Men of Independence? And it's a checklist. You go down that checklist and it says, here's what we do. Here's who we are. Here's what our desire is. Here's our mission statement. And to join our chapter, here's our chapter dues. You'll be expected to buy a tuxedo or your own, or we will provide your costume for you, whatever that is. But it goes down through a whole checklist and says, here's what you can expect from us, but here's what we want to expect from you. So that nobody comes in and you say, okay, to join it'll be $200 a year. We'd like that in cash right now, please. Oh, by the way, we're going to send you down to the XYZ tailor shop and you need to buy a $250 tux. What? That's tough. I think it shows professionalism when you create a pamphlet that you can hand somebody maybe after the third time they come in and they indicate, hey, I think I'd like to make this a part of my hobbies, and I'd like to join your chorus. Okay, well, let's make sure we understand where you're coming from, but we want to make sure you understand where we're coming from, and the financial and the weekly, hourly commitment that we have for our members, and it has to be in line with what they want and what you want. So I would say do that. Once a new member is established, what does the chorus have to do to help them catch up on learning music performance skills? What I like to do, and I've been tasked to do by Men of Independence several times, is do an early bird session. So I would come in at 7 o'clock and I would help the new members catch up to where we were at. I would run sectionals. I would run, if it was a visual presentation, I would do visual things with them. But we need to set aside some time before, after, or during. You can have, if you have a large enough chorus, you can have maybe one of your assistant directors take a group of guys out to a different room and help hone their skills in that. But again, if we're asking them to invest in us, money-wise, time-wise, we've got to show them we're willing to invest in them by giving them additional resources and such. Craft is huge in this, vowel placement, resonance placement, performance skills. It's much more than just notes. So again, if we're a professional organization, we're going to give them music, we're going to give them learning tracks. That should be sufficient for notes and words. They can do that on their own time. What we're looking for people to do is come in, have that under their belt, and then we're going to come in and tweak it. Okay, you're under pitch on this particular note. Hey, when we're singing this particular section, it's very emotional and very soft. We want a certain look so that it emotes that music. Those are the kind of things that we really need to work on and get them up to speed on that. And what else do we need? What are we missing from the manual? So this is the chance now. I think we've gotten through the entire manual, at least what I had planned for that. So now, CC, are you on the call?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so what I'd like to do now is let's go to the chat room, CC, and if you would read for me the first question, and let's we'll unmute and mute people as we need. But if there's a question, let's read the question off, and if somebody has an idea, and let's get them involved. Doug, what did you have? Doug?
This is the first question I have, and then and also I wanted to explain what I did. I was the director for Mansfield, was my last gig, and when I went up there, we were doing performances, a lot of performances during the year, and sometimes they would be free, sometimes they would be $75, sometimes $500 or whatever. And I said, this is ridiculous, guys. I said, I think we can't devalue ourselves. So here's what you need to do. You make out a contract that we will sign with each performance saying that our fee is $500, but that we're going to donate back to the organization $400 of that, $500 of that, $350 of that, and keep track of that throughout the year. And at the end of the year, we can say we donated to the community $10,000 based on the amount of money that they should have paid us that we donated back to them instead. I mean, so I'd like to know how other people handle that, because I think that's very important to not devalue your performance when you go out into the public.
We just do the way you used to do it, which is just some are free, some are not. But I love this idea of donating back. That is absolutely brilliant. I'm writing down notes. so
Well, this is why we have, we have people on here who, Doug's been around for a long time, Lane and Paul, and I mean, we have people who have thought of things that that are not in the manual, and this is where I want this to focus on. Is that's a great thing. I hope that's the first I've ever heard of this, and it's an idea that I think is great, and I'm thinking it probably has some good 501c3 tax implications as well. So
It does. We do the same thing. It was about 10 years ago we started doing exactly that for exactly that reason, because our contracts were all over the place. And at one point I had driven an hour to get to a performance way up into Michigan, and literally 5 people showed up to the concert because they hadn't done any advertising for it at whatever it was. I think it was a church. So we all drove an hour, and I took off work so that I could drive up there and direct. And then I find out we got paid $50. I'm like, oh, no, nay. We're not doing that anymore. I won't be making any more of those trips. So then we started with, structured contracts, and we got a tax guy who is our treasurer, and he's like, well, if we just, you can donate if you have a cheap event that for somebody who can't afford it, or a nursing home or whatever.
good. Anybody else on that subject?
Yeah, I think we have probably a similar structure to everyone else. We've got different tiers that we work with. So like if we do the nursing home, out in the community thing, it usually goes for one thing. But if we're doing our own shows, and it's ticket price. But one of the things that we do that we've done since the early 2000s, 2005, 2006, is that we will do high school shows, and the high school shows we do for free. So the chorus doesn't charge. We do those for free, but we do expect the high school music program to sell tickets to raise money for themselves. So that's the only real caveat we have for that. If we're doing a high school show, which we were trying to do maybe 3 to 5 a year for different high schools, come in and we would actually sing with their groups. The biggest thing in that way, so that way we don't make anything really, except for planting the seeds of barbershop to the younger generations. But the biggest thing bigger thing we get out of that is we don't have any work to do. We don't have to sell tickets. There's no money. The kids raise the tickets, the kids raise the money, and it all goes back to their music program.
Steve Patrick, you had a question.
I did. Doug, when you do that contract thing, do you get a check for 500, then give them back a check for 400?
No, what we did is we said our fee is $500, and then they said, well, we can't afford that. He said, well, what we will do is we will negotiate, but we want you to know that this is a $500 performance. And there might have been cases where they paid us and then we wrote them a check back, but most times it was on paper only.
Because I think for tax purposes, you'd have to show for publicity, I don't think that would matter.
We're a 503c, so it doesn't matter what we do. But I think it's important for them to know that that's what our fee is, and that we will refund to help them more than the fact that we're going to lower our price for them.
Hey, Doug, do you have a copy of that form? And would that be something you could email me and I could email them a sample of that so that they had something?
Well, that's with the Mansfield chapter. I'll contact their business manager and see what they have and how they've written it out, because I didn't have to deal with it directly. The business manager did that, but I did
Okay.
set it up and get it clear.
I think that would be a great thing. Or if anybody else has one, if they want to email me with that, I can get that out. I need to send out a link to you guys to evaluate this particular session. And when I send that link out, I will just wait. And if I can get a copy, a sample copy, I will send it to all of you people to have, because I think I've been doing this 40 years, and this is why I love to get into these roundtable things, because I hear things I've never heard before. And so that's a new one. I'd like to be able to go in and talk to our business manager at MOI about doing it. It's a great idea.
And for file sharing purposes, while I have your attention for a moment, I put in the chat the link to the Google Drive folder for this class. Mm-hmm. So the files that Jeff emailed out earlier are available in there. And then if we have anything else that we want to add and pass around amongst ourselves, you can just pop it into that folder and everybody will have access to it.
Super.
So then the email that will go out later, will that include the link to the Google Drive?
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Doug, there was a request for you to include your spreadsheet for your learning schedule.
I'm going to create a new one for Alliance very soon, and I did it for Mansfield, so I have to go back and look and find the ones for Mansfield, because there's a time of period I wasn't MVP for Alliance before I became director. But I'll go back and see if I can find it. But if not, I'm going to create one. And by the way, everybody, all you have to do, it's in the chat window, is go with your cursor, go over and copy it and paste it. I have a Word document I keep up open so that I can just paste those things into a Word document and save them all. And I think we should put everything, as CC said, in anything that we put in or we want to share, put in that Google Drive where Jeff has got the 3 items that he shared with us already.
Hey, Doug. Hey, Doug.
Yeah, Lane.
Yeah, when I was directing the Lionel Chorus, I created a learning schedule for them. It didn't have the learning tracks, anything like that on it, but it did have a learning schedule when the song was going to be introduced, how they had to work, what it was going to work on, and how they had to have it memorized, when they had to have it memorized, and it worked out well. I started that in September for our show in March. It worked out really well.
Well, Lane, did you put that in a spreadsheet, or did you just have it on paper, or how did you share it?
I had it on paper and made copies for everybody. I still have copies of that.
Okay, well, can you
well.
send me one, and I'll go ahead and get it up and get it and put it in the Google Drive also.
Okay, all right, okay, I do that.
Doug, guys, my chorus, we learn about 10 new songs for our shows, and you can't learn that many without having a schedule of when to start them, when they should be off paper, when they do everything. So I do the same thing. I create it, but I don't do it on spreadsheet. I'm not very good with spreadsheets, so I did it on a table. And but I will share what I have. I looked back and I found an old one. I'll share that one with everybody. I have I call it three different stages that a song goes through: learning stage, the polishing stage, and performance stage. I allow 20 minutes to learn a song when I schedule it. I allow 10 minutes to when it gets to the polishing stage. I allow 10 minutes, and then when I go to do the performance things, we just sing it through once or twice to make sure that it's right where it needs to be. And that way I can schedule my songs, how much time I'm going to spend throughout the day on each one of those. So it gives me a table of how much time to spend on each song, plus how the songs are progressing throughout the day.
Going back to Steve's point, what I would say is, if you are comfortable doing 10 songs, that's fine. This is something that every vice president of music really needs to define for themselves, because depending on how the level of performance you want them to be, that will determine how many songs you come up with. If you're fine with 10 and you can learn 10 and they are up to your standard of performance, fine. If it's 3, that's fine too. You have to determine what your level of performance is. Ariel?
So I've done anything from 3 songs to 5 or 7 new songs a year, and everything in between. And I've done a learning schedule and I've not done a learning schedule. I've been doing the directing for, it's like 10 or 11 years now. So I've done a lot of different things. So my schedule, I've had it, I have a spreadsheet, I then send it out to the guys, I have all this. And then we get to that moment where we're supposed to be off music. And I definitely have at least 1 or 2 guys who shrug their, I say, okay, everybody has to have their music down. And a couple of the guys that always just shrug their shoulders and look at me and say, but I don't have it. Is there any, like, what we say to them, or do we let somebody else deal with what, how do we deal with that when we have guys who are still struggling with it?
Okay, Ariel, I'll give you something that this is my philosophy. It doesn't have to be anybody else's. I believe that risers are a sacred place. I believe we do not get onto the risers. When we get onto the risers, we are in performance mode. We are ready to go. We are ready to sing. I expect everybody to be. And if you don't know your music, so we're practicing music. We're doing our song. I say, okay, everybody who's word perfect and note perfect, let's get on the risers. We're going to work on that. And I'm not going to, if people aren't that way, I'm going to say, hey, Bill, I'm noticing you're not knowing your words and stuff. I only need guys on the risers who are ready to go with this. And that way, it brings a little bit of, and I say it in a nice way, but hey, stupid, you don't know your music. I don't say that. I'd like to say that, but I don't say that. But that way, if we make that risers a sacred place where you are only invited to go if you have all of your notes and words down, then that brings a little bit more. It makes the guys, I think, who are, if they're really singers and they really want to be a part of the group, they're going to up their game a little bit, because I know from whence you speak, Ariel. Like I said, I've had those same people too. I think that's why it's important to have risers put up every week and really work on the risers, but only have guys up on the risers who know their stuff. And that might be a subtle way of letting them know, hey, if you want to be up here with your brothers and sisters in harmony, let's up our game. Anybody else on that subject?
I think
Yeah, I was
that's
going to
harder.
say that sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll be brief. I was just going to say, I think that's harder to do when you've got, you're lucky to get 12 people to show up for a rehearsal.
Again, you have to work with what's in your chorus, and I agree. I mean, I know some of you, I've visited some of your chapters, and some guys there's 11 or 12 guys in the chorus. So again, you have to set expectation levels based on what you have, but you also have to set expectation levels on where you want to be. I think it's important that this is where we get back into the goal planning, folks. So we look and we say, in a year, we want to have this many songs, we want to have this many people. And you have to, if the chorus agrees to that, then they've already said, yeah, we're on board with that. We want to do that too. So you have expectations of them, but they have expectations of you too. So I get that. And you kind of have to go with what you have, but I'll go back to the Geyer thing that I said earlier. You demand excellence, you're going to get guys fired up. I will use my own. When I came into Penn, Ohio, we had 27 guys. I got them excited. I brought in new music. I brought in some really neat music that they really loved. At the end of the first year, we went from 27 to 48. At the end of the second year, we went from 48 to 63. So we more than doubled the chapter in less than 2 years. Because we got excitement going. We set standards. We said, it's not good enough that we're just okay. So don't be afraid to say that, we need guys to up their game. If you want to be in this, we're in it for the long haul. We have a 5-year plan. We have an idea of where we're going to go. To get there, we have to have commitment from the guys. And I think for every one you lose, you'll probably get 2 new better singers, because better singers want to sing with better singers. You know, I would certainly take a stab at that.
Yeah, we
Somebody
invite
else?
guys to sit out. If they voluntarily say they don't know the music, we'll invite them to sit out for that song. Most guys don't get cranky about it, but if guys get cranky about it, learn your music.
Hello.
So it's kind of an expectation that if you're going to stand on the risers and do shows or contests, you should probably know your notes and words. So if we see somebody struggling, then we may invite them out privately, like Jeff was saying. But most of our guys, if they know they're not ready, they're going to sit out voluntarily. They're going to wait until they know it. Because we do small groups every once in a while, and small groups are basically, okay, it's you 8 guys are going to sing for the chorus now, the song that we just worked on, and that kind of makes guys know that they're going to either have to sit out when they're asked or invited to sit out, or to just go ahead and be ready.
Another approach is we do a tiger course. We're supposed to be off our music in 3 weeks, and we'll say, okay, and next week we're going to have a tiger course on, you know, a particular song, and only the guys are invited to be in the tiger course, or who guys are noteworthy, note perfect, and word perfect, and we go up and perform. And who doesn't want to be a part of the tiger course? Everybody wants to be involved, and so that might be another approach you look and think about, is having a tiger chorus, and then having those guys who are in the tiger chorus go back and say, hey, next week, to one of the guys sitting next to them, you know, I want you to be in the tiger chorus too, and you know, get them motivated to do that. It's motivation not by saying anything, but it's motivation by what you do and how you structure your rehearsal. So I think it's an important thing. Anybody else?
So Jeff, on that thought, my question was, how do you introduce the concept of having guys either submit tapes or get quote unquote signed off? So the guys are not freaking out about, well, you know, that's not what I signed up for. I mean, how do you approach that? How do you evaluate that? How do you roll that out?
Okay,
we'd like
so
to do it, but our guys all started pushing back with, well, we don't have tape recorders. We don't want to do this, da, da, da. And so to get them to sign off, it was like, I know everybody has a phone, right? But I got some really technically challenged people who don't know how to hit record on their phone or have a special app or whatever. But, you know, do you have them sing in quartets where you sign off at that point in front of the chorus? I mean, how do you do that the right way so that nobody freaks out?
Doug, go
I
ahead.
think Doug might have an answer, but.
Well, when I did Mansfield chapter, I went up and I revised, you know, a lot of things. And part of that, you know, I talked about the spreadsheet schedule. Here's what we did. We would play the song for the guys. And then we would say, you've got 2 weeks to go ahead and work on your learning tracks. And then we went into the J.G. and Lombardo sectionals. And on the 4th week, we started audits. Now, when I say audits, it's the same thing you're talking about, tracks, tapes, but it was a gentle method. I had a boom box, and now I have a Bose speaker that fills the whole hall. And we split off into partners and for each one of the songs we wanted to do it on. And they would spread out in the hall. And I told them to use a 1-foot voice when they were singing, which means basically the person that they were with could hear them, but we weren't, you know, you could still hear the music predominant in the room. And what they did is we would sing it once, they would sing towards each other and sing together. Then one would hold the music of the other person with a pencil. And the guy in the second round, one of the members would sing and the other one would record spots where they missed their notes. And then they would talk about it. And then we would reverse that. And it took 10 minutes and we got everybody audited. And then we could talk about how far along we were after each one of those. They could raise their hand and say, how many of you were 100%, how many of you were 80% and so forth. And it was only to make them better. And it also, because we were doing right at rehearsal, they were prepared better for it. And also they were being judged by one of their friends. So a bass was singing with a bass, a lead was with a lead. And if we had 3 people, sometimes we would do it. If we had, one group left over that didn't have one, I would pair up with that person no matter what, so that we could sing for each other too. And it worked out great. The guys loved it. And we got everybody on the audit. We didn't get on the risers until I had over 60% of the chorus that had passed the audit through this audition.
Okay, so Doug, I have a question. When you were doing the auditions, do the individual members sign off on each other, or do you sign off, or how did that work?
Well, once they signed off, they were fair game. Once a guy said, this guy's good, then I could take and I could play the learning track and have him sing along with the learning track if I wanted to do what we called just a quickie audit with me. So they knew that if they said that this person's okay, that they better be.
Okay. Another way we've done it before is yes. I mean, we do record. We have a couple technically challenged people who know how to use their iPhones. And what I would do, or somebody else in the course would do, would say, hey, come on back. I'll make the recording for you, and I will submit it. And we typically submit it to our section leader. And the section leader is the only person that hears that particular recording. So it isn't something where we're going to play it for the entire course and say, here's how much Les really screwed up. I mean, that's not the intent, and it's not what happens. And then you get feedback from your section leader. Hey, under pitch here, this section was really good. Try to, be a little more present in your voice in this section or on these notes. So, I think it's based on how you ask them to do things, or what purpose it's going to serve. And I think this goes back to the mission statement. If everybody in the course is in agreement with the mission statement, what problem would they have if we put in there that, every year we're going to be doing audits for things? And it's not to be exclusive. It's not to be having you be off the risers. It's to make you better and to have you be included on the risers. So I think it's all how you look at it too, how you present it. But if you have that in your plan, in your mission statement, and every chapter member says, yeah, that's what we need to do to get better, I think that goes a long way with getting them on board and making them feel more comfortable. Anybody else on that subject?
Yeah, and forgive me, my sound cut out for a little bit if I'm reiterating what Doug said, but we have everybody record everything on their cell phone, and we've actually run classes before rehearsal on how to record something on your cell phone. I have Fred Schaefer, and he is now able to text message and record stuff on his phone. Anybody can do it. So just run a class. And if nothing else, have somebody else stand there with a cell phone in front of somebody while they're singing, and have somebody else manage that. But they have send all of those recordings go to me, and then Will and I listen to all of the recordings, and we use it as a qualification standard for contests, because we're a contest course, but we don't sell it that way. I sell it as it's private vocal instruction. So when they send me a recording, I'll play it on my computer, and then I will live record an evaluation in real time of them singing and then me talking about what they're doing. So they know exactly what I'm talking about and when in their recording. And then I will email that back to them, and then they have to listen to me talk and have to listen to themselves sing. And we've just kind of turned it into a private voice instruction, and then they have to resubmit until I say at the end of the recording, hey, you've got it, great job, you're qualified. And then if you're not doing qualifications per se, then you don't need that last step. But I would recommend just doing these kind of evaluations anyway. It's especially now, where somebody else brought up the question of how do you get people singing again. This is how you get people singing again. Have them sing along with a learning track, have them sing along with a past performance of your own chorus, and then record themselves and send it to you, and then critique it. and tell them what they're doing right and tell them what they can do better.
Another one you can do is self-evaluate. A lot of times we'll be up on a riser singing, and they'll say, okay, let's get our phones out, and we'll sing to our phones within our section or with the rest of the guys around us. And that's a pretty nonchalant way and pretty non-intrusive way to get people to submit tapes too, is if they're singing to themselves with the people around them, whether you're in sections or you're doing shotgun. That's a pretty easy way to get people to do things too. You're going to hear a lot of different ways from CC and Doug, from CC's chorus, my chorus, Paul's chorus, the Buckeyes. We have an expectation of going to international every year, so we're going to do things maybe a little harsher, if that's a word. We're going to be having higher expectations of our guys because we have a certain standard we want to maintain. If you're not at that level yet, then I like Doug's suggestion where you basically have a riser buddy standing one another and singing to each other and self-evaluating that way. Whatever works for your guys, but I think every chorus has to have a personal expectation of anybody who gets on those risers, and however that can work in whatever level you want to use is the right level for you. But it's all with the idea of how do we move forward? How do we get them to that next step? How do we start out, and then how do we get them to that level where they'll self-record and feel comfortable submitting that to their section leader or to the assistant director or to the director. That's the goal, but that's what you want to do.
So I think if I could just offer this real quick, we get the pushback when you first start a program like this. Make it not scary. It's not a scary thing. We just want to see where everybody is. We just want to see how you're doing. We want to help you. We want to be the team that we want to be the guy, because all of our stuff goes to the section leaders as well. But we just want to know how you're doing. Hey, how you doing? Just record it on your phone, and everything that we do, we audit. Southern Gateway audits every song we do, and the way we do it is simply on the risers, but we have to hear you. We don't have guys go off by themselves and do it or anything like that. But the biggest thing is when you're first starting a program, make it not scary, because guys don't want to do it if it's scary. Make it however they can do it. If your section leader's standing with you, you hit your, and you hand him your cell phone and he records on your phone. But just, it's not a, hey, this is a do or die, you have to pass, blah, blah, blah. Just, hey, we just want to see how you're doing. And I think that makes things a lot less scary. It certainly did for our guys. And we never call it an audition. We always call it an audit. But our guys know, they know what it really is. But just, make.
I went to high school with a guy in choir, and he, for all 4 years, he refused to sing out loud by himself. Just would never do it. And I don't know that he had a bad voice. He just wouldn't do it. And the teacher couldn't get him to do it. He'd have him sing with the person next to him. That might work, but he would never sing alone.
So coming from a small chorus that had a lot of pushback for the idea of recording, the way that we started to introduce it is that first off, we had recorders that the members could check out in case they were more technology challenged. They're just little recorders. They weren't very expensive, that my music VP would, they'd have to sign out and sign back in the recorder. And it was just like literally push play or push record, push stop, give it back to us. And we would even take it off of the recorder for them. But they, something that we added to it to make it so it was more for them, if more or less scary, was to have that self-evaluation portion as a part of it. To, okay, we're going to let you listen to it yourself first and make sure it's where you think you want to be first before you submit it. And to prove that, here's a little questionnaire of things that you can listen for to make sure that you think it's of the quality you want before you give it to us. And then then they were able to record. We gave them, instead of just to start off the program of, we are going to try this recording thing. Here are 3 songs we really want to make sure we're good, we're solid on. You can choose one of those to record with, and you have like 6 months to do it. Whenever in that time you find a time to record yourself, do it 4 or 5 times within that, however you want to do it. You can soft submit so that you're like, can you just test this and make sure it's something that I should submit, or anything, so that we were giving them as much support as possible. Now that we started to really hit the ground running with it at the beginning, or it was the end of 2019. So really put a wrench in it for last year. So I'll let you know how it goes when we try it again.
Can you put in the chat what hardware you used?
No, because I don't know, because it's
Oh.
in my music VPs. I will ask him, and I can maybe in that Google Drive folder, maybe I'll put a link or something to it there. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks.
Honestly, any of those cheap little MP3 players that you can get at Walmart, they all have a microphone and a record function, and they're like $10.
I know when I was with Vienna Falls, we had to submit recordings and tape recordings at that point, but we got them back from our section leaders with, and they were always the lyrics of the song with circled or noted items on the, on the song lyrics with, this needs to go up, or you made a breath where we shouldn't, or something like that. But one of the other things that I thought was interesting that I heard recently was when you introduce a song, and those of you who do this all the time can pipe in, but they actually give an annotated copy of the song to the guys with no breath here, this is where we will sustain. So the music isn't just the music, it's already come out pre-annotated with the directors. We're going to go soft to loud here. We're going to grow here. This is the word we were going to emphasize. This is the no breath here. Breathe anywhere but this. You can breathe within this space. I thought that was an interesting concept when the music actually has come out, that the director has already reviewed it and annotated it, so to speak. And I didn't know if anybody else has done that. It was an interesting concept I heard and was thinking about.
Yeah, we do that as well. When we send out music, we have it annotated. The idea, though, that you want to make sure they understand is this is a starting point, because as we explore the music as musicians, as directors, we may find that something's not working or something needs tweaked. So make sure that they understand that this is a starting point. If we're going to do audits coming out, this is where we want you not to breathe. This is where we want you to continue the phrasing. This is where we want you to be loud. This is where we want you to be soft. But that may change based on something. When I directed, I did that. But then once they started singing, I said, you know what, there's a really special chord here. I really want to worship. So I would sustain that chord a little and then give them a breath afterwards. So make sure they understand that this is a starting point. As artists, we continuously change things. One of the things I put in the Cider Express recently was Neil Sedaka performing do 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 down, do be do down down, and this breaking up is hard to do. The one he did the first time was this Bobby Soxer, throwaway lyric. It was all about the tempo. It didn't explore the music in the words in the lyric. Then he came out about 30 years later and did a balladized version of it. And it was so different and so much more moving. And I just listened to every word that was in the song. So, we want to have the artistic ability to make changes on things. So make sure that they understand this is a starting point. This is where we think we need to go to start with. It may be changing. We may do something different. We may rewrite a chord that sounds better. But, so the guys don't point and go, hey, you said we're going to do this. Yeah, make sure they understand it's a starting point. Doug, you're still muted.
Pressing the space bar does not work for me. even though we talked about it, Jeff, I'd like to hear from Paul and you and Cece and others about, we've been doing Zoom meetings, and I think a lot of your chapters might have been doing Zoom meetings where you sing along with the music and everything, but we're going to crash and burn, I think, the first time we're face to face when everybody runs out of voice after the first 15 minutes because they're out of shape. I think even our best singers haven't been doing as much singing as they normally would. And I just wondered what you're going to be doing. I want to mention first about Alliance. We just had a music team meeting and came up with an idea. And we're doing a song a week where at the beginning of the rehearsal, and we've already told the guys what the song is and ran through it. We're going to play the music on the Zoom meeting and have them sing into their phone and then send that instantly to Brian Odell, our assistant director. And by the end of our Zoom meeting, he's putting it all together into an auditory, an audio collaboration of all the people on the Zoom meeting, or if you're not at the Zoom meeting, you can submit it beforehand to him. And we thought this would give the guys an opportunity to get the songs back up and running again in their repertoire, and maybe at maybe just a little bit higher level because they want their voice to sound pretty good when they're performing it for the Zoom meeting. So I'd like to hear what you guys are doing to get ready to, because I figure maybe by April or May, we might be able to have face-to-face meetings again. So what are you doing, Paul?
So until it got cold, we were doing small groups outside. We were still having our regular Tuesday night Zoom meetings. And we're trying to learn 2 new contest songs. So through all that, the biggest part has been, yes, we know we're at home. Yes, we still do expect you to learn your music. And yes, we still do expect you to audit. This has been a little tougher for us because we typically don't have guys audit without being on the risers. So this has been click up the learning track or click up the last chorus performance of it and do your audit with that. But as far as still singing, we do every Tuesday. Well, we just moved from Tuesday nights to Thursday nights. So we'd still, you can see guys, you can tell when guys are singing or not. So we still ask guys to sing. We still actually, Mike Bell, who is our vocal guy, still does warm-ups, still does the vocal stuff at the beginning of the rehearsal. Everybody's muted, but you can tell guys when they're participating and when they're not. So one of the things that now that it's gotten colder and we've not been able to do the small groups at all. Our small groups were 6 to 10 guys. You had to wear a mask. It was typically either outside or in a barn. We'd sing for 30 minutes at a time, and then we'd air out for 10 minutes. Then we'd get back together. And it was only if you feel comfortable. If you do not feel comfortable doing that, nothing was said. There was no notes taken or anything else. So now that we're just strictly Zoom meeting, we still expect guys to be working, and we still look for their audits, and we still switch it up every once in a while and audit something that they may not be expecting.
Jeff, what's Independence doing?
Not a lot. One of the I put this in terms of golf. When you play golf over the winter time, a lot of people have those mats and their nets in their garage, and they're hitting off their golf mats into the thing. And it's like, okay, well, that's great, but are you promoting a slice or a hook when you're doing that? Are you repeating a swing that isn't working? And then by the time you get back out, is that swing going to hurt you because of that? So I agree with Paul. Unless we aren't doing audits at this time. We are singing, but it's one of those things where Gary is a finicky guy. And I mean, Gary expects us to be, at our best at all times. And I mean, that's why you're a good chorus. That's why you go to international. That's why you're a top 20 chorus. That's the expectation is there for that. But when you're singing at home by yourself, you really don't know if you're singing correctly or not, unless you're doing audits and sending things in. So my expectation is we will start that very soon now that the vaccine is out. But we're a very diverse chorus in terms of geography. So it's very hard for us to do that. I drive personally 100 miles each way to get the chorus practice. I'm not going for a small chorus, for a small group of 6 to 10 to sing for an hour. That I'm not driving that far for that. And I am singing along with the contest tapes and doing all those things. Hopefully, as a music major and a voice major and such, hopefully I'm doing it right myself. But that I don't know, and I know singers who are not of this, that don't have this training. I don't know if they're doing harm to themselves or helping themselves. So I'm hoping we're going to do audits pretty soon. That's not on my plate, but that's up to the MAP team. We are not doing anything along those lines as of right now. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, we spent several months last year doing almost nothing, like probably most of you, especially after the lockdown really started and nobody was doing anything until summer. And then I just couldn't handle it anymore, the not doing anything. So we started doing basically taped audits just like we had been before, but without a whole lot of gusto behind it. Late last year, we decided we're going to do one of these virtual checkerboard chorus things, not because I'm in the checkerboard virtual chorus business or that I have any great desire to do so, but I need a target. I need something to go toward. Everybody needs a motivation. We're all just kind of sitting in the waiting room hoping that something's going to happen, and that's not good enough to keep me motivated to get out of bed. And this is the kind of stuff I love doing. So everybody's turning in recordings of them singing along with the first time we're doing it with a song that we know we have in the bag. So we're doing a previous contest tune that everybody can just dust off and sing along with our last contest recording. And you turn in a recording of yourself singing with the last contest recording, but in your earphones, so that only your voice is there. And then now I've got an audio track, and I can now critique you just like before. I can tell whether or not you're using good technique and give you appropriate direction. And now I've also got a recording I can with everybody else, and we can put together a chorus recording. And it gives us a project, and it's getting people singing, which nobody was singing. None of us were. I mean, unless you are hardcore and that's your job, nobody was singing for 3 to 6 months last year until you realized how bad it was. I wasn't either, and I sing all the time. We intentionally started a quartet in my family so that we can sing. So my wife and my 2 boys and I are singing just for that express purpose, just to get me going again. I would encourage you to just do audits with, whether it's a learning track or a past recording, just so that everybody has the same frame of reference for what you're singing along to. That way you don't need a director per se. And then you've got, everybody can participate, even if you're not in the same room.
Ariel, go ahead and unmute.
Coming from a vocal health standpoint, though, something that Doug mentioned is that, and we've heard a couple of us say now, is nobody's been singing for months. And that's our chorus for sure. We took time off, and we have been focusing, I guess I'll put it nicely, we've been focusing more on fellowship than on singing. And so we are trying to gear up towards our goal being meeting in person for a short time on Tuesdays. And to do that, we have to make sure our voices are at a level. So because nobody's singing, we're meeting weekly on our Tuesday night normal rehearsal time. And I'm weekly going to be giving them like vocal technique ideas to be doing every other day, every day, just vocal warm-up things to be doing that they're probably not doing anymore, just as reminders, just saying, okay, this is something you can do in the shower every morning this week, or every evening this week, just to make sure that you're not going to hurt yourself when we are singing more often on our Tuesday nights, because we are going to be doing more of our rehearsal songs now, even on Zoom, just so that we can be prepared in person. But if you jump into vocal acrobatics all of a sudden, when you haven't been singing, none of us have been in this spot where we really just haven't sung, even with the radio, as much like we have in the last 6 months or so. And to just jump in and say, okay, our voice is going to be there isn't reality. We have to ease us into it and give the guys a way to do that, since we've never been here before. So just a thought that I'm doing for my chorus and for myself even, just to ease into it.
And can we get on the CC list so that when you send it, Ariel, we also get those so we can pass them on? You know, I'm a big proponent of steal someone else's ideas as opposed to recreate the wheel all the time. And it would be awesome to see some of those if you would be willing to share.
Oh man, that feels like a lot of pressure. Here, I have some of them in. I can probably put something together.
I'm not, I mean, no super pressure. I'm just thinking if you've already got some things you're thinking of, or anybody that would help, like when we started doing our Zooms, and I'm fortunate in that the Zoom meetings we did right away when it hit where it was warm enough, and I think it was like May, my guys met in the courtyard of a church, socially distanced with masks and lawn chairs. And it was in a church that was brick on 3 sides. So we really did have the ability to sing, some with masks, some without. We were all outside. We did that until it got too cold. And then that church actually opened up their fellowship hall for us, where we had 6-foot tables. Every guy got 1 table, socially distanced, inside. Sing with a mask, obviously, and we got singers masks. We got the singers masks from Broadway that allow that extra space up front. And we sang together probably until December, when it wasn't real safe anymore and everything went crazy. And we haven't sung other than on learning tracks or anything on Zoom meetings lately, but we're looking forward to the minute that church is going to allow us to get back in there. The guys are planning to get back together, and every guy at a 6-foot table, and we sanitize before we're done, and the church provides us that information. And so I'm fortunate in that we've had a chance to sing, but I like the idea of, hey, here's some things to do on your own, like just ideas to warm up. I've played warm-ups through the Zoom meetings. We've had everybody sing along with the learning tracks through the Zoom meetings. You can clearly see who isn't singing or who is, but any ideas to help with the vocal, make sure their vocal cords are safe and sound and not hurting themselves is always a good idea.
If you're looking for extra content to throw into your Zoom meetings, I went and got the membership at the Barbershop Harmony Society in their online learning section. I think it cost me like $80 for the year, and I will video share just video seminars from Harmony University, and they've been adding a mountain of content over the past, especially the last 6 months, when they knew that they needed to divert their attention to online stuff. There's a ton of great stuff on there. A lot of it is vocal health stuff, care for the aging voice, you know, good vocal pedagogy, all of that kind of stuff. Some of it gets really super technical. There's stuff on arranging, there's stuff on what to include in your weekly meeting, how to be a better performer. There's a mountain of stuff there. I would highly encourage you to look at that and just play a 15-minute video during your Zoom call, or a half hour, so that you're not pressured to come up with awkward singing things that just kind of feel ham-handed on a Zoom call.
We did the YouTube videos of Harmony U warm-ups. I've done those. The other one that I liked and I did with a chorus was something similar, and that's the Keep the Whole World Singing with Jim Henry, where he went through, and I used that, and the guys were like, well, the first thing they wanted to do was pull out their version of Keep the Whole World Singing and realize the version we had was not that one that they were singing from. And it was a different version of the song. So we played that, and everybody went through that, which was really cool to do. And so whenever they say, well, let's do that, I always pull out Forefront doing Keep the Whole World Singing as the one everybody sings with. So that's a perfect idea of how to use a learning quartet too.
Something that I've been doing that has been a little bit unique is, everybody's singing with the learning tracks, and it's okay to sing along with a digitized voice, but we've been asking for volunteers to sing live, and then one person will sing while the other people sing along with that, and now you're singing with a real live human voice. It's a little bit more exciting. Getting the volunteers is a little difficult, and it is weird when you're singing with a baritone who has volunteered to sing his part, and but I try to stick with the leads, but can't always get that. But you get a bass, a tenor, or somebody to volunteer to sing their part, and everybody sings their part along with it, and that seems to be a little bit, it's different, and it gives you an opportunity to actually harmonize with another human voice.
It is approaching 11:40, and this is great content, and it's what I hope for in a roundtable discussion. I just want to make sure that we clarify for you guys anything that you have any questions about your duties, your interactions, and such. We're getting some great ideas here, and I think that's super. But I just want to make sure, from my standpoint, that we've clarified what is expected of you, what you should expect of directors, what you should expect of the board. Is there anything along those lines where we need to clear anything up, or if you're having any issues interacting with your director, or you having any issues interacting with your board, that we could use a collective intelligence and experience here to warm up? Is there anything along those lines that we can help anybody else with? Lane?
Yeah. To what advantage do you think would be to have craft sessions every week? Maybe take 10 minutes and have a craft session so the guys really understand what music is all about, what the director is talking about when they talk about roots, thirds, fifths, sevenths, and everything. Some guys have no idea.
Okay, so you're talking music theory, not craft. Is that what you're looking for? Music theory?
Yeah.
Okay, that's, to me, I'm going to give you my answer, and I'm going to let anybody else chime in along those lines. That's a little different. I will give you some examples. There is I think, I'm not wrong in this. One of the top 3 international quartet leads right now does not know how to read music. I've interacted with so many really good singers who have never read music, who have no idea how to sight read, who have no idea if they're on a root or a third or a fifth. So I'm not sure. I like that idea. Being a music guy, that's a big thing for me. I think, this is me. I don't know. I think it's a great idea if you have a 7:30 meeting, maybe make that open to people to come in as an early bird session. Say, hey, you want to learn to read music? Do you want to learn where you are in a chord? Do you want to learn how to figure out what your particular note, whether you should be loud or soft, and so on and so forth, and make that a voluntary thing. But I think that's something you as a director can incorporate into craft sessions, where you're actually singing. You stop and say, hey, baritones, do you realize you're on a third? Let's look at the chord right there. The note is, the root chord is a C. You're on an E natural or an E flat. You're on a minor third or a major third. You're above the leads, and you have that major third in the chord, which means you should shut up or you face, right? There's the kind of things that you can incorporate within the structure of the nightly meeting, as opposed to, but I don't think it's a bad idea also to have an early bird session for all those people who want to, because some people will just zone out and not want to do that. I'm sure Gateway, I know Men of Independence, I'm sure Alliance have people that are not music readers, or are not really music theory people. So I don't know how much you want to do with that. And again, I think that would depend on what level your course is and what you expect, what your expectations are about that. Anybody else on that subject to help Lane out?
I'll take a slightly contrasting view of that and suggest that music competency, the more competent your musicians are, the better they will be. If nothing else, getting them to the point where they can kind of read music is going to make them learn faster. It's just an added tool, and it'll increase the number of things that you can say in front of your chorus that they'll understand. So you can develop a language with your singers that starts adding vocabulary that can be impactful. I included a link in the chat. That's a great music theory learning. This is music theory for dummies right here. And you can go from 0 to 50. And I've got a number of guys who are completely illiterate, like they know that the note goes up or down and that's it, but they have no idea what all those dots and lines mean. And they're able to now competently read music. They're not going to be sight reading. They're not going to be breaking down chord structures, but this increases their competency. And you can do it on your phone. I think there's a paid app for the phone. There's a great app, or there's a great web page, and it kind of like walks you through how to learn. This is a great thing to do right now while people are stuck. You don't have anything to do? Go learn how to read music. Here's how you do it. And don't force them to do it. I don't think, you know, a forced, by the way, I'm gonna teach you Chinese now for the next hour. That's not gonna go well. But put it out there as and then encourage them to do so, and then explain why, and you'll get, some people will participate.
Has anyone, oh, sorry, has anyone ever taken a piece and instead of having to score on 2 lines, break it out into 4 so that like there is a bass line that just the basses follow and a baritone that just the baritone, so that it might be easier in the beginning? Has anyone ever done that in a song?
I haven't, but that's actually brilliant, and why I never thought to do that, coming from the choral world, where that's how most of the music actually is because a lot of it gets confusing, especially with tight chords.
Well, and when leads, you know, the leads are below, or leads are above the tenors, and so, you know, those notes, and you're always trying to follow where the stems go, but sometimes that's hard. I just wondered if sometimes that would make it easier if it was that way. And it just came to me as we were doing this. I'm thinking, well, why couldn't we take a piece of music and make it 4 scores instead of 2, and make it easier for the guys to see where their part actually is going up or down?
Some of the new arrangements that the society is putting out are written that way. It depends on the song and whether they think they can market it to other groups. You know, it's not written barbershop style, if you will. So yeah, we've had a couple of them. The problem is that it takes a 8-page song and turns it into a 17-page song. You know, and flipping those pages every 4 measures, you're flipping a page, so it's a little bit difficult. But
I'll play devil's advocate with that. If you do that, you could have almost like you used to see in orchestra, right, where you just had your part only on a single sheet with the measure markings, and so it could go back down almost to 2 pages instead if you just had the basses, each of your scores on 1 page. Maybe that would make it easier to learn music. I'm just throwing it out there.
I would think that would be harder with barbershop music because you want to know what everybody else is doing. Like when you're singing the same syllables with the tenors or leads, but not the baritone or something like that.
Good point.
Yeah,
Plus, I also wanted to mention that if you had a music that was 2 voices on each staff, and that's a good amount of effort to rewrite that into 1 staff per voice, and somebody needs probably the skills and software to be able to do that.
George, you had another comment, and also you put in something about your free arrangements in the chat earlier. If you could speak to that.
Oh, well, I've written some songs, and I have no problem if anybody wants to use them. I have more that I haven't posted yet, but that I just, the stuff that I've written, I'm not out to make any money on it. And if somebody, but I would, in some cases, I'd like to hear human voices singing it instead of the music composition program that I use that will synthesize the vocals. But I had another comment along the same lines of what we've been talking about, and I think I just had my train of thought derailed. So if it comes back, I'll let you know.
Mark Blake actually sent me your Christmas song that you sent out recently. City of Bread.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna work that into our rotation for next year.
Well, if you ever record it, I'd like to hear it. Now, the recording that I sent out is actually from the Alliance Harmonies for the Holidays CD. So it has been sung by the Alliance, and I'd still like to hear others do it. And there are some others out there that I've done.
Alliance is fine, but we'll put together something for you.
I do want to bring up, I know some of you might have been on, I've gone on the BHS chapter meetings, and they're fantastic. They're just like a Zoom meeting, but on steroids. But Clay Hine wrote a song and arranged it and had the tracks made, and it's free to everybody. And it is an awesome song. And Alliance, just a heads up, I think Alliance is going to, in the near future, try and make a video virtual chorus, and we're going to invite everybody in Johnny Appleseed and maybe Cardinal, if we can, to join us and sing that song together for the spring, so we can have it ready for the spring convention when they do some virtual stuff at the spring convention. But that song, if you haven't heard it, Tony DeRosa did the tracks for it, and it is a great song, and it's just all about harmony.
It's the music that brings us together, and it was one of them that I threw out to Akron to learn with the Music Medics program, because I thought it's new and it's cool. In fact, Akron is actually talking about singing that.
Free.
Yeah,
and it's free.
Akron is talking about singing it as part of their showcase at International, to actually perform that one at the International Showcase, is singing Clay's "It's the Music That Brings Us Together."
It's a good song, and I think if nothing else, the members might enjoy doing that if we do put together a virtual chorus, and just joining together as our whole district and be part of something bigger.
I like that.
I know a bunch of guys who'd be in, so yeah.
Okay, it's 11:51. We do have some more time, but sit around, and as everybody's been answered, I know I've been writing notes from those of you who've come up with things that I've never come up with. So I've learned a lot being here, and that's invaluable to me. I hope you guys have too. Is there anything else we need to do before we Lane? Giving us the finger, Lane.
Yeah,
I see
Jeff,
that.
Yeah, one other thing that might be interesting to put on Zoom as you guys are having Zoom meetings. Many years ago, Dave Stevens put out he taught it at Harmony College, called "What Are We Trying to Preserve?" That is wonderful. If you guys would like to pull that up and play that for the guys, sometimes it's not very long, and let them guys see what that is. It's funny, but it's great. It's right to the point. What are we?
I'm not sure we're doing a good job of preserving anymore that particular thing, but
that's true.
Right.
I'll just share too that I did upload. CC gave me the rights. I uploaded to the Zoom or to the shared drive what Akron did for. I made a mention about categorizing our music. So I shared the memo that I did. So it lists patriotic. Here's the songs. Spiritual. Here's the songs. And so we reevaluate that almost every year as a music team, and we add and subtract songs from that, so that it's basically the list that if someone comes to us and says we need to do a patriotic show around 4th of July, we know that's the list we're going to go from, instead of the entire catalog of everything that's out there. So I did share that out there if anyone is interesting. I put that out as a PDF so you can see at least what we did.
Along with Lane's suggestion, there is one out there on YouTube. It's called "It's Great to Be a Barbershopper," and it was made in 1982. And for historic purposes, if you want to go out, it's really funny. Two cartoon characters talking to each other, and they have the choruses on there, and then they have a learning quartet that taught how basses and leads, and I am actually in that learning quartet as the baritone in 1982. So it's pretty funny. It was the Harmony Partners at that time that did that, and it was quite fun to do that. But for something really crazy, if you want to go back and see where we came from, that's a good one. It's Great to Be a Barbershopper on YouTube. So.
Has anybody shared the Main Street at the high school when they did their session that's also on YouTube, explaining barbershop to high school kids with Main Street? That's pretty amazing to share as well.
That's a great one.
Is that on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay. And what is that called?
Put in Main Street and it'll pop up.
Okay.
Yep.
And
I think that's really important, an important thing we need to do, not necessarily a topic of music VPs, but I think that's a really important thing we need to do is engage with our community, engage with our high schools. Music programs have been cut down so much, have been, their budgets and stuff have been cut in half. And I think that's the society has been doing a pretty good job of providing that. But I think that's if we can get into high schools and do a little work ourselves, get some of our better singers in there to just teach a tag. I had the opportunity to teach a tag last year to a high school group. They freaked out. They just loved it. It was just very simple. But when they heard those chords come together, it was like they were just freaking out. And that just gave me energy. Our Men of Independence, we started a program. Dennis Castiglione is our president, and it's called the Power of Harmony. And we have a local prison for young men, I think up to age 21 in the area of Akron, that area. And we went in and did a program for these prison kids. I mean, they have nothing. They're in work. And we did a show, and the first song you could see people out there goofing around, and the second song we got a little more attention. The third song we got a little more attention, and by the time we were done, these guys were really engaged. So we asked if they wanted to. Anybody who wants to stick around, we bought some goodies in for them which they don't get, some homemade cookies and that kind of thing. We invited them to stay around and have some punch and cookies and interact with us. And we were teaching tags and stuff. And out of 150 kids that were there, maybe 30 stuck around, but about 15 of those kids we started teaching them tags, and they had a ball. And I'll tell you, I came home out of that experience and I cried my eyes out, because there was such joy that we provided for them, that kids that had nothing, and then COVID hit and we can't get back in. But they are picking up Power of Harmony for us, and we're hoping it is going to go national. But engage with, you just don't know the power of song until you get engaged with high schools and with audience. So I would encourage you to really get engaged with your community. And that's the way we get members.
Exactly. Planting the seeds of barbershop is huge, and going to high schools is definitely the way to do it. When I was younger, I would usually be the guy that would put the quartets together and go into the high schools. Now we have the luxury of using the Darlington brothers, and to see the kid's face when you first walk into the high school and you're standing in front of the choir, and they start singing, just like you're saying, you'd be surprised how many jaws hit the floor, and they're just like, what is this? Where has this been, the last 15 years? But so yeah, planting the seeds of barbershop in the high schools is great, but high school teachers are pretty finicky folks, and you gotta be careful what you say and how you do things. If I could jump back just a little bit more, not to change the subject, but what you were saying about making sure your assistant directors are ready to go when they need to, definitely do that, because just a couple of years ago, we were on our way to the district contest, and I got a call from our director who was on the way up, who was all of a sudden having vertigo and up to the point where he was almost passing out. And I circled back around. I was about 20 minutes ahead of him. I went back and picked him up. I took him to the contest, and he got up on Saturday morning, and he just looked and he was just like, I can't do it. I can't direct today. So it was one of those things where our two assistant directors are myself and Paul Gilman, who's kind of okay in the barbershop world. But it didn't really come down to who's going to do this. We were each going to, the first discussion was we were each going to do it. And I was like, I don't want to do one. Just do them both. Either one of us could have, but for everything else, he should do both of them. So keep your assistant directors, keep your section leaders. You got to keep everybody current with everything, because sometimes things get real scary real quick.
Paul, I want to go back to what you're talking about, the music teachers and how they're finicky a little bit. We had a couple young boys that were in our chorus, and their music director really didn't want them singing with us because of the reputation of barbershop, and they promote poor singing and all this stuff. So I asked the boys to ask their director if he would come out on a Thursday night and coach us. So he came out, and when he showed up, we did a few warm-ups, and then I picked our best two songs, and we sang our best two songs, and just the look on his face was like, oh, okay. He's never discouraged it. In fact, he's sent us more young men. So he said, you go there, you'll be a better singer when you come back. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, it is 12 o'clock, and a lot of us are going to get back on the meeting at 1 o'clock. There is a diversity meeting at 1 o'clock. Steve Wysmierski is hosting it, and he has several people who are going to speak to inclusion and other things. So it's chow time. I would say if you have any other questions, please feel free to submit them to me, and I will disperse them to the group of people who are here, and we can continue this conversation in email if we need to do that. But I'd just like to personally thank all of you for taking time and investing in your chapters. To be at this meeting, I hope it's been meaningful for you. The second half was much more meaningful for me than the first half. But I appreciate you all taking time out to do this, and we will see you, hopefully see you soon. I am dying inside by not singing with my group, but getting out and doing teaching and things, being a harmony helper. And man, I'll tell you, this is really hard, but it's been great seeing all of you, and stay safe, and hopefully we'll come out the other side.
Don't forget, Jeff, we got to do the evaluation. So can you put that link?
I think CC has that. Do you have that?
Follow-up email to everybody.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
That
right.
Google Drive will be in a follow-up email for you.
Okay.
And Jeff, your email address is what, just in case we can't find it?
It is my name, just as it's spelled on the sheet, jeffgem@gmail.com.
Got it.
Make it
Bye,
easy.
everybody.
All right, take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.